have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman, presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The puck's picked up, sent off the boards, downside for Keller. Keller back for Christian Fisher. Fisher at the empty net, he scores. And the Coyotes take a 4-2 lead with just under 53 seconds remaining.
Well, it's a tough loss. It's it's disappointing. I thought we had a couple breakdowns, where they wound up scoring, but I thought from our opportunity offensively, I thought we had good looks, and unfortunately tonight the puck didn't go in, and obviously you needed 3 or 4 to win tonight, and we didn't get it.
Puck just didn't bounce our way last night, says Coach John Hines. We just needed it right here, right there. It's disappointing that we lost to that horrendously terrible tanking team that is benching its best defenseman because they are trying to trade him. That's what happened last night to the Predators. An unforgivable loss by the Predators to the Arizona Coyotes last night. Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Ian is here today. Ian, what'd you think of that one last night?
Not so great, huh?
Not so great is the understatement of the century. I thought last night's game, and remember last week, Ian backed me up on this, when they got smoked by Vegas in the first game out of the All-Star break, I said, I'm not going to kill them for one game. I'm not going to kill them for one game coming on. I know they got smoked. I know it was embarrassing. I know it was lifeless in the arena for that Vegas game, but I'm not going to crush them for that. I am going to crush them for last night. Last night's game was an abomination. Last night's game was the defining moment for me as to what this team and organization is. And the way they react from this is going to tell me if they are serious at all about ever being good again for the foreseeable future. I said this after they got swept by Colorado. I said they don't really have a choice but to move off of David Poile and John Hines. I said they can bring them back. I mean, anybody can do whatever they want. Just like I can go take all my clothes off and run outside naked. I can do it. But there's going to be some serious ramifications if that's what happens. And I don't think those are ramifications the Predators are going to want to live with. David Poile and John Hines had their press conference after the season. You'll see. Just trust us. Just believe. Just trust us. Just. I know we haven't won anything in 4 years, but just trust us. In the case of Hines, ever. Just trust us. And most people didn't. Most people were like, yeah, I know. I've heard the same song and dance over and over again. And so they went into the season. They did that Hard Knocks training camp thing beyond the glass. They went out to Prague and they smoked up on San Jose. And it was, hey, here we go. You'll see. You'll see. And it's really been the same old stuff that it was at the end of last season. It's really been what it's been around here for the last 5 years, which is not good enough. So the Predators, in my opinion, have 2 choices they can make here. One, they can finally wave the white flag, which they have never done since I've been on the radio here, which is 2015. They can wave the white flag on the season, which most of us have already done, myself included, and they can say, okay, it's time to really start thinking about the future. Now, the last couple of years, they've signed contract extensions and have screwed themselves. So as far as kind of really hard resetting the team, they can't do that. There's just too many contracts on their team that they can't trade. But they can still move off of Niederreiter. They can still move off of Trennan. They can still move off of all of their RFAs. And they can really hit the reset button, which is trading UC Saros, which I would be considering doing right now if I were the Predators, because they've only got him signed for the next 3 years, and I don't think they're going to be competitive for the next 3 years. So what's the point of having Saros? Or there's the other option. The other option is to fire the coach and to hope that the team that you put together, that David goes on the morning show every week and begs and pleads with people to believe him, even though by every passing loss to Arizona, by every consistent first-round exit, consecutively year after year. I think less people buy that narrative that comes out of his mouth. But David keeps saying, it's just the players aren't doing it. Just I wish the players would do it. Just the players could do it. I think we've got a good team. I think we've got a good group of players. Well, if that's the case, you got to fire the coach. Because you have to change something. I listened to the midday show today, and it was, can't trade that guy. Oh, boy, we can't afford to lose him. Why not? It's not like you're winning anything with the guys you have now. Oh, can't fire this coach. He's doing a good job. Is he? How many playoff wins he got? How many playoff series wins does he have? I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think if you were to fire the coach and call up the guy from Milwaukee, I don't think that you'd be letting Scotty Bowman go. I could be wrong, but I don't think that would be what is happening here. But what's going to happen, and you know this and I know this, is they're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Because that's what they've always done. I begged at the 2020 trade deadline, sell. It wouldn't have been a serious sell. It wouldn't have been Forsberg. It wouldn't have been Pekka Rinne. It wouldn't have been Roman Josi. It wouldn't have been Matt Duchene. But sell Mikhail Granlund, sell Craig Smith, sell a couple of these guys, Scarbinis, and get some picks in return and see if that pick can be a Victor Arvidsson or a Juuso Parssinen or a Pekka Rinne or a UC Saros. Guys that were not first-round picks. Didn't do any of that. Then 2021, they started off the season as bad as last night was. That is what the start of the 2021 season was. And that was when people finally started saying it's time to fire David Poile. And I've never backed off of that since that moment when I said in 2021, this is it for me. And even though they made the playoffs, I stayed the same. It's time to move off. And we begged, sell at the trade deadline. And he added Eric Goodbranson. Last year, they actually started off pretty well. We thought they were going to make the playoffs, be a playoff team, but we certainly didn't want to buy. And he flipped a second-round pick, which is where Roman Josi was taken, which is where Shea Weber was taken. And he used a second-round pick for Jeremy Lauzon. And this year, you all know it's going to be more of the same. You all know they're going to win, a game here or there along the way, and they're going to convince themselves, I'm telling you, Jared, we're right there. We're really turning the corner. You've never turned the corner. You haven't turned the corner since you won the division title at the end of the 19 season. That was 4 years ago. That's how long it's been. I have no faith in David Poile, literally zero. Some of you might have some faith in him still. I don't know how, but that's your opinion, and that you're fine with that. Whatever. Everybody's told me they're never going to fire him, which truly, truly breaks my heart. But you can't keep telling me the same thing over and over and over again and then be shocked when the results are the exact same every single time. Last night, I went to the game. I said this on the air. I was going to do no socializing at the game. I was going to watch the game. I sat in my seats, and I watched the game. That game last night was so boring that it was hard for me not to just grab my phone and just stick my face into it. And that Arizona team last night freaking sucks. They have not won a road game since the Titans were 7-3 and John Robinson was still the general manager. That's how long it's been since that Arizona team, who scratched their best defenseman because they're working out a trade for him, that is the last time they won on the road. It was an abomination last night. And it's the same. It was the same in 2020. We think we're about to turn the corner. Knocked out in the bubble series. It was the same in 2021. We think anything can happen if you make the playoffs, out in the first round. It was the same last year. And when the fans said after the sweep at the hands of Colorado, no mas, rebuild, move on, they said, no, trust us. We promise this will be different. And it has absolutely, positively been no different at all. So they got two choices. Either admit the truth and wave the white flag, which you know they don't want to do, or fire the coach. And I don't think there's any in between here. I mean, at this point, if all of your best players are not having career seasons like they had last year, then you're going to have to do something that shakes it up that might be able to get those career seasons out of them. And that is firing the coach. You get a sugar high when you fire the coach. That's what it is. So, I mean, to me, it's one or the other. Either wave the white flag now and start talking to the guys and say to Ryan McDonough, where would you want to go? Say to Matthias Ekholm, where would you want to go? Say to Roman Josi, is there anywhere in particular you would like to go if that is, in fact, the course that we end up taking? Now, a lot of the guys, I don't think they can trade, but I would start having those discussions. If I am convinced that this coach is the guy to get me to the promised land, which I am not, but if I was, and I wasn't going to fire him, even though I fired the last coach for the exact same win percentage in the middle of a season after he had won 2 straight back-to-back division titles, if I was going to do it, that's what I would do today. If I'm committed to the coach, which I don't know why they should be, but if I was committed to the coach, then I'd start planning how to tear it down. And if I didn't want to tear it down, I'd fire the coach. But you have to do one or the other. You can't, for your sake. You can, and I'm saying this, I'm trying to help the Predators out here. Because last night in my section, in my row, it was me, my buddy, and 2 people on the aisle, and that was it. And so, again, I love the Predators. They're my team. I'm going to root for them. But, I mean, that team they lost to last night, I don't know how you lose to that team. That team freaking stinks. That team is trying to lose. That team knows they're trying to lose. That team hasn't won a road game since November. And they lost to them. It's the same as it's been for the last 4 years. And I used to always say, if I owned the team, and I used to always say that because it was kind of a way to buffer as opposed to saying, hey, this is what you need to do. It was more so like, this is my opinion. Everybody can have their own opinions. But we've gotten so far past what would have happened if I had owned this team. I mean, David Boyle would have been gone 2 years ago. John Hines would have never gotten hired. I mean, it would be so night and day different if I owned the team, and there's no way it could be worse. So that's how we're starting today. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. I know they can say whatever they want, but if you're serious about becoming a contender in the next couple of years, not this year because it's not going to happen, but if you're serious about actually doing the right thing, what's in the best interest of the club, you either have to decide to rebuild today, wave the white flag on this season, or you have to fire the coach. It's one or the other. And if not, you're just doing the same things, and guess what? You'll get the same results. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And I hear this weird defense, and David Poyle defended John Hines today on Robbie and Rex Road, and I'm not sure I totally understand where he's coming from, and we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, rocking and rolling right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to jarrettfire.com. JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
Hey, you think mortgage rates are still super high? Well, think again. Rates have plummeted to a 5-month low. Hey, Willie Donick here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you've got way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month, or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. So if that applies to any of you, listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto. Wipe out all those cards. cards. Close in about 14 days and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. How does that sound to you? Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. So call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Here's the phone number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Your company's hiring. Who isn't? We would love to show you how to use 1025 The Game to attract and retain employees. We can also help you find the exact person you're looking for with a targeted digital campaign. You can trust our team to help you build your team. Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Every piece of land has a story. The Upshaw's right there is with a John Deere 1 Series tractor they call Penny. And this is Shaw.
Shaw stands for skilled hands at work.
When he's not cutting grass, he's cutting hair.
So every person is different from hair type to head shape. And I feel like it's the same way in a yard.
From front loader to backhoe, the Upshaws have the tools to DIY all day long. Run with us on a 1 Series tractor and start telling your story. Learn more at johndeere.com/radio.
One reason for joining a company often becomes the most important reason for why you stay or don't. It's called work culture. At Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station, we put a lot of energy into creating an environment that supports each individual and celebrates them as our teammates. This month, we're saluting Drew Chester in our sales department, who's enjoying his 5th anniversary. And Josh Kuhn, a part-time host on 1029 The Buzz, passes the 3-year mark. Want to join Drew and Josh? Send us your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I know every game is big, but when you go against a team lower than you in the standings, disappointing that you kind of sort of...
Yeah, every game's important this time of year, regardless of who you play.
Yesterday, tell him, hey, every game is important no matter who you play. You know, in February, when every game is important, when you suck, that's when every game is important. You know, the Boston Bruins can lose on Thursday night to the Predators, they'll be fine. In these 82-game seasons, I mean, that's it. Every game's important. Half the guys in the NBA don't play every night because they're really not that important. But they are important when you're terrible. And I did think that, you know, John Glennon, as eloquently as possible, tried to ask John Hines the question, does it hurt extra bad that you lost to this team because they stink so bad? And that is, in fact, the case. It hurts extra. It is awful that they lost to that team last night. And the one thing I will say, David Poyle was on Robbie and Rexroad this morning, and Robbie asked him about the criticism of John Hines. This is what David Poyle said about his coach.
It's always the same thing, isn't it? When everybody gets frustrated, you can't trade, 20 players. You can make a change in management. You can make a change in coaching, and oftentimes teams do that. I for sure think that's always the easiest road, and I'm not prepared to take an easy road. This is a team responsibility. I mean, you cannot, for me, separate the coaches and the players for where we are right now, and everybody has to do a better job. I mean, as you're talking in this interview, I guarantee you that John Hines and his coaching staff are as frustrated as anybody. But I just don't think that is the problem with our hockey club. I think our players have played better, and again, we have nobody that is having a career year with our team. And again, that's the responsibility. The guys got to step up and play better. I fully believe that we have a team that is capable of making the playoffs. I fully believe that we have individual players that have not played their best this year. So, again, I'm a team guy, and it starts with me, and we all have to be better.
I agree it does start with you and you should be fired, but you're not going to fire yourself. So let's get to the coach here. I really don't think there's a defense of John Hines anymore. I really don't. Last year, nobody picked us to go to the playoffs, and we made it even though we got smoked in the first round. But you don't even have that. Everybody thought this team was going to make the playoffs this year. They're not even really sniffing the playoffs. They're trying to convince themselves that they've got a chance of the playoffs. The last time they fired a coach, he was coming off of back-to-back division titles. Let's just compare the two. Peter Laviolette had one Western Conference title under his belt, one President's Trophy, 2 division titles, 5 playoff appearances in 5 years, and he was 5-5 in those playoff series. Meanwhile, his playoff winning percentage, he was 32-29, which is .525. And when they fired him, again, midway through the season after winning back-to-back division titles, the Predators had a point percentage of .549. John Hines, since he's been hired and is now in his 4th season, 0 Western Conference titles, 0 President's Trophies, 0 division titles, 3 playoff appearances in 3 seasons. If you want to count that bubble series against Arizona where they lost in the play-in to the playoff, he's 0-3 in those playoff series. He's 3-11 in the playoffs, which is good for 21%. By the way, the current Preds point percentage, just like Laviolette when he got canned, at .549. So what is the defense of John Hines? Every time you ask somebody over there, like Poyle or somebody else, to tell you about the coach, they give you nothing tangible. Oh, we have an identity now. What is it? Losing to bad teams when you shouldn't? What is it? Not playing hockey in the middle of May? What's the identity of the Nashville Predators? Or you ask them about John Hines. Oh, he's working hard. Okay. I mean, last time I checked, that's what they pay him to do. But the coaches that get to keep their jobs are the ones who work hard and win. Because winning is a requirement of the job. Apparently not here. They don't hold John Hines to any sort of tangible standard. And that's what makes it incredibly frustrating, is when I listen to the midday show and it's like, well, it's not John Hines' fault that Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg aren't having career years this year. Let me get this straight. Last year, 9 guys had career years. We gave all the credit for that to the coach. They got smoked in the first round, and we expected all 9 guys to have career years again? Well, if we gave all the credit to the coach last year, then why are we not blaming the coach? Why does the coach not get blamed for anything around here? Why is it always it's the player's fault or it's my fault? It's never it's the coach's fault. Now, I will say this with a little asterisk next to it on what David Poyle said about John Hines today and what he said about him in the paper last week and what he's just said about him in general. He went on a radio interview across the street about a week before Laviolette got fired and said he wasn't considering a coaching change. So make of that what you will. But I'm just telling you, if you are the Predators and you still want people to think that this season can be competitive, I think you have to fire the coach. Because that's what they do in this league. This is a fire the coach league. And every team, except apparently this one, for this particular coach. And I have to say that, what is the defense of him? What on the resume tells you that this guy's a good coach? I hate to break it to you, but when you've got a better team and your team is actively trying to win, unlike the team that you played yesterday, you're expected to win those games. I mean, what are we doing here? Last year, they promised they were going to put together a team. And now what's funny is the goalposts have moved. And this is Predators 101. Just a consistent moving of the goalposts all the time. The goalposts have moved because last year they made it to the playoffs and everybody was fed up with the idea of making it to the playoffs to get their teeth kicked in and then all of a sudden have to watch everybody else play. So they promised, no, we think we're going to compete next year. And now it's all, oh, we think we have a team that can make the playoffs. That wasn't the deal going into the season. The deal was not to make the playoffs and get smoked. The deal was to make the playoffs and try to compete. And we were all very, very skeptical of you, but you all said just trust us, and we didn't, but we didn't have a choice because the one guy whose opinion matters won't do anything about it. And all of a sudden, here you are, and you're on the outside looking in, and you've got your hands up saying, who could have seen this coming? And everybody is sitting there saying, all of us. And that's the frustrating part. So what's the defense of the coach, other than the non-tangible elements of, they've got an identity. They play hard. Coach Hines is working every day. Those guys, Coach Hines, you don't know hockey. You don't understand. What's the defense of the coach? Last time I checked, when you go into the Hall of Fame, it's not about identity. It's not about how hard you worked at night. It's about what you won. Bill Belichick's boat is called 8 rings. You know why? Because he won 8. 6 with the Patriots, 2 as a coordinator with the Giants. It's not called the USS Worked Hard. It's not the USS Identity. It's 8 rings. Because it's about winning. And here, this coach has done none of it. 0. And yet they still constantly defend him, and they don't hold him to the same standard that they held the last guy to, who was an infinitely better coach and who's going to make the playoffs this year. 615-737-1025. I see your phones. We're to them next. Stillman and Company, again, here's where the Predators are. We'll get to your phones, your reaction. Plus, David Poyle said something today that I actually agree with, and I think he's already messed up. We'll get to that. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. And again, it's not about last night's loss, but you can't lose last night. That team's not trying to win. That team has not won a road game since November. You can't lose that game. Screw up Valentine's Day, 1025 The Game, and Green Trees Company have your chance to make it up. Tune in this Friday to the Chase and Michelle Show for your last chance to win tickets to see Adam Sandler at Bridgestone Arena, courtesy of Green Trees Company in Hendersonville.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg, and this is Smashville.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, give it back to Forsberg, and here come the Habs.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
You can trek through the savannas of Africa. Wait on the magic moment on the Great Plains of North America. Or find the thrills of Patagonia. You can book your dream hunt at the SEI Convention, coming to Nashville for the very first time. Come find your adventure February 22nd through February 25th. It's the ultimate sportsman's market, a place for every hunter. And this year, it's happening Music City style, with special performances by Lee Brice, Big and Rich, The Frontman with Gretchen Wilson, and of course, Leonard Skinner. It's a celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, February 22nd through February 25th. Come find your adventure. Just log on to safariclub.org. One more time, that's safariclub.org. This convention will sell out, so reserve your spot today. Come find your adventure.
Imagine her delight when she unwraps a luxurious spa day from A Moment's Peace, the ultimate day spa and salon in Cool Springs. We're open all day to help you in person or by phone or online at amomentspeace.com. And whether you spend a little or go lavish, you're a thoughtful romantic this Valentine's Day. Time's up, so stop in at A Moment's Peace in Cool Springs across I-65 from Galleria Mall at the intersection of Carruthers Parkway and Bakers Bridge Avenue. Call or click right now, 224-0770. Online at amomentspeace.com.
The National Wild Turkey Federation is celebrating 50 years of conservation delivery during this year's convention and sports show, set for February 16th through 18th at Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Come celebrate the golden anniversary with members, volunteers, partners, and countless outdoor enthusiasts. You can expect the same great nightly events, quality entertainment in the watering hole, and the latest gear from more than 450 companies featured in their exhibit hall. For more info, go to nwtf.org.
The Nashville Sheriff is hiring correctional officers. Earn $52,500 after paid training and probation. Positions are available immediately. You must be 21 and over with a high school diploma or GED. Come join our family. That's $52,500 with great benefits. Apply now at sheriff.nashville.gov/apply or call 615-862-8170. Earn $52,500. Stop searching. Apply now. The Nashville Sheriff.
Stop! Are you about to pay too much for new furniture? Then you need to come by Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in Nashville. Their President's Day sale is going on now. You can buy your new furniture today and get it today, but you do not have to pay today. During Social Furniture's President's Day sale, they have special financing for up to 60 months with no money down. Sectional sofas, mattresses, dining sets, bedroom sets, and more are up to 50% off. At Social Furniture, they say yes, yes, yes.
102.5 and 106.3, The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rex Road 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willie, and D Mace 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3, The Game.
Hey, Nashville, this is Sean Henry. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
I think one of the key parts of my job is to set the expectations correctly for our team, ownership, for our fans. I really believe going into this year, and I still believe that we are one of the teams that should make the playoffs. But here we are over halfway through the year, and we're not there. So either I'm right or I'm wrong. And this goes back to all the conversation we've been having this year. A little bit of inconsistency, some down years from some players that had spectacular years last year or career years. It's all adding up to the exact same situation or the same result. We're close, but we're just not there.
That was David Boyle this morning on Robbie and Rex Road. And you heard it right there where he's like, it's my job to set expectations for everybody. And the expectations after last season were that we're going to compete. We promise you. Because remember, I don't know if you guys were at the game on the Game 4 against Colorado. It was as dead as a doornail in that building. I mean, it felt like a regular season game on a Tuesday night against Arizona inside that building for a playoff game at Bridgestone Arena. And yet David kept saying, trust us. When he had that press conference in May of last year, like a week and a half after the season was over, normally they do it like a day after the season. They gave us hope because I think it was 2 weeks or something like that. They gave us hope that they were going to fire him. And I mean, David's hands were shaking. He was so nervous because he knew everybody was furious about the state of the franchise. And the expectations then were, we promise we're going to be better. And reality is that you are worse. Like, that is where you are right now. You are worse than you ever were last year. And the idea of pawning it off on, well, we're inconsistent and we're just not getting the career years from guys we got last year. You do realize what a career year is, right? That is something that doesn't happen every year. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have career years because he does crazy things every year. And that's what makes him a great player. Every single player the Preds have signed to on a long-term deal, it feels like, had a career year before they signed him. Career year Matt Duchene, signed him. Career year last year for Forsberg, signed him. The best Granlund has ever played as a Predator was going into free agency in 2021, signed him. He stinks now. But hey, they signed him and they're stuck with him for 3 more years at $5 million per. I mean, come on now. The expectations, to me, the expectations that you set for all of us, we didn't even believe when you set them. And now you're not even coming close to meeting the expectations. So that worked me up as well. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. A lot of you all have a lot of things to say on the text line. This is going to be my first favorite one here. Texter says, while it's embarrassing to lose to a team like Arizona, it took Ian, help me out here. Verjelkema? The goalie last night?
Yeah, Vejmelka.
Mm-hmm. It took Vejmelka playing one of the games of his career for them to barely eke out a win.
I wouldn't go that far
team needs
about his career. I wouldn't go that far about a game of his career. But sorry, continue.
Well, I'll get to him in a second. It says, that being said, team needs a soft reboot. Hines is not inspiring the team enough and getting enough out of the talent he has. But that whole thing about Vermelkema, I mean, I went to the game last night, and I sat, and like I said, I sat in my seats. I said, no socializing. I'm going to watch the game. When they did the starting lineups, I knew of one player on their team, and that includes the coach. I had heard of one player, Clayton Keller. Later, the other guy I had heard of, Nick Schmaltz. Other than that, I had not heard of a single player that was on that team last night. That is how bad. That team is a minor league team that you played last night. That is the Miami Marlins is what you played. You know, the Marlins every year, they develop good players and then they trade them to other teams. And every year they get their faces kicked in because they're trying to keep their payroll at like $30 million. And the Mets are out here spending $280 million. That is what you lost to last night. So I don't care if Vermelkema had a stick coming out of his tush last night to stop some of those shots. And he didn't. The Predators didn't play a good game last night. I kept hearing today on the midday show, the stat sheet said they had all the chances. Right. And you know what the difference between good teams and bad teams are? Good teams bury their chances. Bad teams don't. And so Vermelka, I don't care. That team sucked last night, talking about Arizona. And I hate to say it, I'm not trying to be rude here, but I'm not convinced that you're too far behind that. Texter into the text line, Sylvia in Clarksville says, could it be that the players don't like John Hines and they are refusing to play their best in hopes for a new coach? I doubt it. I don't think that is – I don't think that they hate Hines. I mean, people will say this about how he's lost the room and stuff like that. I don't think that the one thing I'll defend John Hines for is that I don't think he's lost the room. Like, I think they still play hard. The problem is I just don't think they're very good, and I don't think their players are positioned to succeed. And I go back to Tolvanen. I mean, I think that is the classic example of bad coaching, is you have a guy who's a really talented player who has shown that he is a talented goal scorer. He showed that in the 21 season when he saved their bacon and got this team into contention. And then you play him on the fourth line. You play him out of position. He did have a down year last year when they gave him opportunities. And you just throw your hands up and say, well, he's just not very good. Get rid of him. And then he goes somewhere else and starts playing really, really well. Well, that is a knock on coaching. That is a knock on you are not getting the best out of what you have. And that's why I don't disagree with David when he says that there's probably more slack on the rope from this team. But I just don't think this coach is going to get it out of them. That's why if you still want to think that you got a chance, if you look at your goaltender and you say, you know what, I think I can get into a playoff series, and if my guys can play up to their standard, I can win that playoff series and maybe go on a run, especially with the goalie that I have. If you thought that, and I don't think that, but if he did, if he thought that, then he should fire the coach. Because then you want to see if somebody else can get something more out of him. And if I owned the team, I wouldn't let David hire a new full-time head coach, but I would let him hire an interim coach. And I would hope it would be Carl Taylor from Milwaukee. Texter says, realistically, I don't think firing the coach is going to help this team win because the roster isn't good enough. That being said, I would enjoy seeing the coach go because he hasn't helped the situation and he has been a loser everywhere he has been. I can't get over the constant defending of Hines. I mean, I told Caroline this, and I think she thought that I was being a little egotistical when I said this. I am convinced, the way that it works around here is, or the way that it probably has worked around here, is the Predators make a decision, and then everybody says, they wait, all right, this coach, he's the next coach. We'll see what he can do. Whereas I sat there when they fired a very successful coach in Laviolette, and they hired this guy, John Hines, who hadn't won anything. And I thought, wait a minute. I mean, let's see here. Nowhere on the resume does it say this guy's any good or that he's a winner. So why is it that you're investing in this guy who's not a winner? Oh, no, Jared, you'll see. And I think because I was so aggressive at the front end of being like, wait a minute, who the hell's this guy? And they were so adamant in their defense of him, I think that has clouded their judgment and that they are rooted in the idea of, no, we know this guy will work out. Trust us, we know. And so they see things they want to believe about this guy, and that's why they hold him up as a good coach who's just not getting the results, and it's happenstance, and we should all deal with it, and we shouldn't be upset that they lost to Arizona because he's trying his hardest as the coach. But I just don't think that they can see the truth. I think that their judgment is too clouded. And the judgment is that this coach is not a winner. I think last year I went back and I looked at this after the playoff series with Colorado when everybody else who lost was firing their coach except for the Predators. And I'm like, the last thing John Hines won is, I think, and I have to check on this, I think it was like a U18 or U17 Team USA medal in like 2006. I know I was still in high school when that happened. That is the last thing that John Hines won. And yet they never stopped defending the coach. And I agree with the texter. I agree with the texter. I don't think that hiring a new coach is going to turn you into the Colorado Avalanche or turn you into the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I do think that with a new coach, you probably won't lose to the Arizona Coyotes. I certainly don't think Hines is making the situation better at all. And I don't think he ever has. And I don't think there's any defense of him at this point. Chris in Franklin says, I'm tired of defending the organization. What is telling is that even if they are sellers, who do they have of value that anyone would want other than Saros, who they are not going to trade? And that is a really good question, because I put together kind of a list of their contracts and what they could have done after 2021, which is when I would have fired David Poile. Realistically speaking, here's who I think they could move. They could move all their pending RFAs, Fabro, Carrier, Jeannot, and Glass. They wouldn't get much in return, but they could move them really easily. Again, I don't think they'd get anything for them, but, maybe a couple of picks here and there. They're Scarbinis. It is what it is. I think they could move Niederreiter, who's signed for this year and next year at $4 million per. I think you could trade that. Yakov Trenin at 2 years at $175. I think they could trade him. And I do think that you would get, a third, fourth round pick in return for Yakov Trenin, which, honestly, Trenin's probably worth that, so I wouldn't necessarily do it. The big one is Saros. Saros is the one you could trade. That's the one that you would get the haul for. That is the one that would send the message that you are serious about rebuilding. That is the one that would tell your team, this is where we are. That is facing reality head on. Would be trading UC Saros. But that's it. Because everybody else, I don't see anybody wanting to take on, given this cap climate in the NHL, I don't see anybody wanting to take on Ryan McDonough at 4 years at 6.75. I'm not sure anybody would want to take on Ekholm at 4 years at 6.25. Maybe they would at the end of the year. 4 years of Lauzon and Sissons, even at manageable numbers, I think I would look at a Jeremy Lauzon, and if I was another team, and I'd say, well, I just call up some guy from my AHL team, pay him $600,000 and probably get the same thing that I'm getting out of Jeremy Lauzon, which is nothing. Forsberg and Yossi have no movement clauses, and you can't trade Johansson or Duchesne. So there's not a lot there to deal. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will get back into the Preds. 615-737-1025. But an NFL insider linked the Titans to Derek Carr. Seriously. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. They've been taking care of my home for years, and they can do the exact same for you. Kick off the new year with new upgrades for your home. This month, when you buy something you need for your home, Hiller will give you something you want. Pick your prize. Get a free 55-inch TV, an Apple iPad, a Solo stove, or a Nintendo Switch when you purchase a new whole home generator or select new HVAC systems. Or get a free 55-inch TV, a Nintendo Switch, or a Solo stove when you upgrade to a new tankless water heater. There's no better time to take care of your necessary home replacements than right now. Again, Hiller has been taking care of my home for years, and they can do the exact same for you. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller! Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
They can be a fully formed model of what they're going to be offensively moving forward.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
You don't know what's going to happen with the roster or the team.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
This is a good lesson about sports and what we think and what actually happens.
Chad Withrow on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Heart of my heart, I love you.
This year, give your Valentine a gift she'll never forget. A song of love delivered in person by a barbershop quartet. At home, at work, anywhere in the Nashville metro area.
To book your singing Valentine, call 615-200-6193 or go to musiccitychorus.org. That's 615-200-6193 or online at musiccitychorus.org.
Golfers, tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with the new 2023 Aerojet Woods and Irons from Cobra Golf. The new Aerojet Woods are designed with a unique aerodynamic shape that delivers faster clubhead speeds for longer drives. And the new Aerojet Irons are made with hot face technology, so every strike delivers more distance. Elevate your game by swinging into Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit on the new Cobra Woods and Irons today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops. Unmatched expertise, unmatched service.
Hey, you think mortgage rates are still super high? Well, think again. Rates have plummeted to a 5-month low. Hey, Willie Donick here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you've got way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month, or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. So if that applies to any of you, listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto. Wipe out all those cards. Close in about 14 days and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. How does that sound to you? Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. So call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Here's the phone number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Moving isn't fun and can be expensive. With this week's Nashville's Best Deal, save on your next move with Black Tie Moving. Enjoy red carpet treatment along with professional pad wrapping. They will assemble and disassemble your items and save you time. Black Tie delivers a world-class packing service and offers long-distance and local moving options. Right now, get $200 off a half-day move for just $75, or $400 off a full-day move for $150 at thegamenashville.com/deals.
A show that lives and breathes sports.
Focus in, focus in, focus in.
From the SEC.
Credit to the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Ohio States of the world.
To the Preds.
They've been in a lot of really tight games, but they're not winning enough of them.
To the Titans.
He's talking about what this franchise has built over the years.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
What is this? Check it out.
Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Right before the Super Bowl, sources said Derek Carr informed the Raiders that he would not accept a trade to the New Orleans Saints, and the two teams had essentially worked out the framework of a deal. Could have been done had Derek Carr given his okay, but he wasn't going to accept a trade anywhere. He will no longer be the Raiders quarterback. They will simply move on, get out from under the money, and plot their new path forward with a new quarterback. And then Derek Carr will instantly become the top free agent available. Unlike most free agents who have to wait until mid-March, he could sign now. Among the teams expected to be interested, still the Saints, the Panthers, the Jets, the Titans, and some others.
The Titans? The Titans in on Derek Carr. That was Ian Rappaport. Derek Carr is going to get released. Derek Carr is the belle of the ball. In fact, I think the Todd Downing hiring by the Jets, people are pointing that as could they go after Tannehill? I think that's more about Carr. Because Jason Fitz has told us that Carr and Downing are thick as thieves. And so I think that might be about Carr as trying to entice Derek Carr to come to the Jets. And all these teams are going to want Derek Carr because they don't have a quarterback. But the Titans do have a quarterback. Tannehill may not be the greatest quarterback in the world, but they do have a quarterback. So I hear Ian Rappaport says the Titans could be in on Derek Carr, and I'm like, why? Why would the Titans be interested in Derek Carr? Lamar Jackson? I don't think you can win Super Bowls playing that way, but Lamar Jackson, and I would never give him a fully guaranteed contract, but Lamar Jackson, that's an upgrade. Aaron Rodgers, that's an upgrade. Geno Smith, not an upgrade. Derek Carr, not an upgrade. I crunched the numbers today, both over their careers since 2020, so a 3-season sample size, and even last year. The categories feel like Alex Trebek right here, may he rest in peace. Record, completion percentage, quarterback rating, touchdown to interception ratio, yards per attempt, and playoff appearances and wins. And so their career record, Tannehill 78-65-0, Carr 63-79-0. Give the nod to Tannehill. Completion percentage over their career, Carr 64.6, Tannehill 64.3. So basically the same, but give the nod to Carr. Quarterback rating, Tannehill 91.9, Carr 91.8. Again, virtually the exact same. Give the nod to Tannehill. Touchdown to interception ratio over their career goes to Carr. Yards per attempt, virtually the same, goes to Tannehill. So Tannehill right there cleans up in 3 of the 5 categories. Since 2020, Tannehill has a better record. He has a better completion percentage. He has a better quarterback rating. He has a better touchdown to interception ratio. And the difference in yards per attempt is Derek Carr 7.6 to Ryan Tannehill at 7.5. And that's the one thing that Derek Carr has on Tannehill. By the way, playoff appearances, Tannehill has 2, Carr has 1. Last year, record, Tannehill was 6-6, Carr was 6-9. Give that knock to Tannehill. Completion percentage, Tannehill by 5 percentage points. And Tannehill, by the way, did not have Devontae Adams on his team or Darren Waller, as we all know. Quarterback rating, Tannehill 94.6, Carr 86.3. Touchdown to interceptions, Tannehill 2.1 to 1.7 for Carr. And yards per attempt, Tannehill 7.8 to 7.0 for Derek Carr. So out of 17 categories, and Ian, back me up on this, I feel like this is fair. Like, I did not cherry pick these numbers or these stats or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I feel like they're fair. Yeah.
Okay. So over their careers, the last 3 years and last year, out of 17 total categories, Ryan Tannehill had the advantage in 14 of those 17 categories, including all 5 record completion percentage, quarterback rating, touchdown interception ratio, and yards per attempt last year. And that was with no offensive line. That was with a horrendous offensive coordinator. That was without A.J. Brown. That was without a tight end until the middle of the season. Ryan Tannehill had to deal with a bunch of crap last year. And I'm not saying Derek Carr didn't, because Josh McDaniels, in my opinion, is a complete and total doofus. And so I'm sure that he had to deal with his own issues. But he had receivers. He had Devontae and Darren Waller. He had Hunter Renfrow. He had Josh Jacobs, the rushing champion, as his running back. Don't you think he should have been better than 60% as a passer? Or that Tannehill was 8 points higher than him in quarterback rating? No matter which way you want to slice it, Tannehill is the better quarterback. And they are right there on a lot of these categories. Again, over their career, Tannehill's quarterback rating is 91.9. Carr is 91.8. So they're very similar. But think about this. Derek Carr is going to make at least $35 million a season on a new long-term contract. Whoever ends up signing him. And it may only go up from there. Part of the reason why I think Carr is not going to let the Raiders trade him is he's due $33 million this year, and he's like, I could go somewhere else and get even more money. So why would I do that? So you're going to have to pay at least $35 million a season for Derek Carr. You've got Tannehill for $27 million next year. That's how much money is owed to Ryan Tannehill next year. So I've got the better quarterback for roughly $6 to $10 million cheaper than the other guy, and I'm going to take the other guy? No, that's foolish. I have no interest in Derek Carr. The Titans should have no interest in Derek Carr. The GM used to use a phrase all the time. It was called swap and spit. And you talk about, well, move this guy, bring this guy. He's like, yeah, you just swap and spit there. If that's what you did, if you moved off of Tannehill to sign Derek Carr, and you had to sign Derek Carr to a longer contract, that's all you're doing is swapping spit. You're keeping yourself perpetually into the same cycle that you've been in, which is your quarterback is good, but he's not good enough. If I'm moving off of Tannehill, because $27 million is reasonable for probably the 14th best quarterback in the league. If I'm moving off of Tannehill, it's to Aaron Rodgers. It's because I think that C.J. Stroud is the next great quarterback in this league, and I'm trading up to get him. That's what I'm doing. I'm not doing it for Derek Carr. Not when, over the last 3 years, and especially last year, with everything that Tannehill had to go through, he has had a better career, better 3 seasons, and better season than Derek Carr in 14 out of the 17 applicable categories. No thank you, Ian Rappaport. No thank you for Derek Carr. 615-737-1025. Coach Bob Shoop will join us. Of course, as he does on Tuesdays, we'll get Coach Shoop's thoughts on the Super Bowl and what it means with all those quarterbacks. What's next for Tannehill? What's next for Derek Carr? And, of course, how do you get your own Patrick Mahomes? Coach Bob Shoop will join us. Moving is no fun and can be expensive. You can save on your next move with Nashville's best deal of the week from Black Tie Moving. Get $200 off a half-day move for just $75 or $400 off of a full-day move for $150 at theGameNashville.com/deals.
You love the game.
The doors on the board. Touchdown TSU.
We live the game.
Going up against that defense, he can make some plays and take that next step.
We are
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game. Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Celebrate Nashville's chefs and diverse food scene throughout the month of February with Dine Nashville. Scheduled events include one-of-a-kind chef collaborations throughout the month and Restaurant Week, February 20th through 26th. Reservations and more information can be found at visitmusiccity.com/Dine Nashville.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
Mike Lombardi's with his former NFL general manager. What is it about Vrabel that you see that makes him a tremendous coach?
Because he sees the game from 35,000 feet. He coaches all 3 things. To be a great head coach, you've got to run your offense, run your defense, run your special teams all at the same time and understand and intertwine all those 3 things. And I think Vrabel can do that. I mean, I think, and I sent him this in a text, I think the game against Kansas City should go to the Hall of Fame. Malik Willis gets 1 first down with after 6 minutes gone in the second quarter for the remainder of the game. And yet that game goes to overtime. The Chiefs have 19 third downs. They gained almost 500 yards. They couldn't run the ball. They were 2 for 4 in the red zone. But they got that game to overtime. That's a remarkable coaching job in a 3-level level.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
For the love of the climb, for the love of the fall,
For the love of knowing your kids' laughter is the sweetest music there is. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Now, your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Nashville Predators dropped their game versus Arizona last night by a final of 4-2. Head coach John Hines spoke about the loss after the game.
Well, it's a tough loss. It's it's disappointing. I thought we had a couple breakdowns, where they wound up scoring, but I thought from our opportunity offensively, I thought we had good looks, and unfortunately tonight the puck didn't go in, and obviously you needed 3 or 4 to win tonight, and we didn't get it.
The Preds currently sit 5 points back of a playoff spot. They are back in action on Thursday when they host Boston. The search for a next head coach is finally over for 2 NFL teams. The Indianapolis Colts officially announced Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen as their head coach, while the Arizona Cardinals hired Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. The Tennessee Titans officially named Green Bay executive Chad Brinker as their new assistant general manager, and the Las Vegas Raiders have officially released quarterback Derek Carr, making him a free agent. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Bobby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Bay.
Stillman and Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 1063.
Crank City scores.
On both sides of the ball. One big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Coach Bob Shoop is here. Coach, good to see you.
Good to see you in person. It's been a while.
I know, right? You were at the Senior Bowl. I was at the Super Bowl, and now here we are. And let me say that I am still recovering from the Super Bowl. I got home on Saturday at about 2 o'clock, and I hopped in the bed, and I had to go somewhere at 6. And I had to peel myself out of the bed. And as soon as I got back at 8, I was right back in the bed. And even yesterday, I could feel myself sweating out Phoenix still. That was how I felt. But we are back and ready to roll. Let's start on the Super Bowl. Your thoughts on the game and how much, if you were to sit here, if this were the Bob Shoop show, how much would you want to talk about that holding call at the end of the game? Because I led with it yesterday. And I thought we had a really good game. I'm not going to say we had a great game, but I thought we had a really good game between two teams, that are both very admirable. And yet, when the holding call came down, I was like, well, crap. We had a great thing going, and now it's all. And so I felt like the holding call ruined it for me. What'd you think?
Things sometimes in life don't live up to the hype. And I actually thought the game did live up to the hype. It was a really exciting game. It was the 2 best teams in the NFL in 2022-2023 season, without question. I think we were texting back and forth during the game, and the second Bradbury, the holding, I was excited because I said they got to get a stop, and then they're going to have an opportunity to go down because I had picked the Eagles to win the game. And when I saw the flag, you and I both knew at that time the game was over. It was just a matter of good game management by the Chiefs at that time, and what a great play by McKinnon. As the Eagles were playing their surrender defense and trying to let him score, what a great play by McKinnon at the very last second to recognize that he was on the 1-yard line and go down. Or it might have been a little bit of it would have been might not have been a different outcome, but it would have been a different finish to the game. I think that was the disappointing part. I think, Patrick Mahomes, you and I have talked so much the last few weeks about Joe Burrow or about Justin Herbert or about Josh Allen or about Trevor Lawrence. And all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes, I think, reestablished himself. He said, oh, yeah, you guys want to talk about those guys? Mm-hmm. I'm still the best that there is. And, he's, I was always, after 1 year, and everybody joked Patrick Mahomes Hall of Famer, after 2 years, Patrick Mahomes Hall of Famer, I said, let's see. But what he did the other night and what he did on a bad ankle throughout the course of the playoffs was really spectacular and showed that he's the best player in the world. And I thought, ultimately, the Chiefs were the better team, and I thought the Chiefs clearly outcoached the Eagles. I thought Andy Reid got the better of Gannon. And I thought that Steve Spagnuolo, who is a big-time defensive coordinator, a big-game defensive coordinator, got the better of Shane Steichen.
So the holding call would not have made the lead topic of the Bob Shoop Show?
Not to me. I mean, it was disappointing. It was a hold with it. By the letter of the law, it was a hold. But, again, I think I'm of the let-them-play variety. I just don't see that. I think it's one of those things that as Schuster separated, he saw pull of the jersey. The flag was thrown before the ball was incomplete, so I always give guys credit on that, not waiting to see the result of the play. But I also will say this, the ball was clearly an uncatchable ball, and I would have liked, if it was a movie, I would have liked to see a better ending, because I would have liked to see him kick the field goal there, 38-35. All right, Jalen Hurts, let's see what you can do now. Let's drive down the field.
So if Kansas City had completed a pass that had got the first down, and then they could have milked the clock and kicked the field goal, and that was it, I would have had no problems with that game. And I would have felt like Kansas City earned that first down and that Philadelphia couldn't stop them. I saw the flag for holding, and I'm like, this must have been, Saints-Rams. This has got to be. And I see the replay, and I thought, we're calling that in the Super Bowl? Like, we're calling that? I felt cheated.
Yeah, I agree with you. I felt cheated, but if you're asking if it would have made the lead, I thought there were so many other great points to the game that it wouldn't ultimately come down to that. And the truth of the matter is this. If the Chiefs kick the field goal there, there's still a little over 2 minutes to go in the game. Let's see what Jalen Hurts can do then. And that would have been exciting to see how that played out. But the Kansas City, after the holding call, managed the clock correctly, did everything right, put themselves in position, kicked the ball with the right amount of time left. Andy Reid did a great job, and certainly, I'm not saying the Eagles outplayed them. I'm not saying the Chiefs deserve to be Super Bowl champions.
How much did it hurt? And I know that you're not a Titans fan like I am, but how much did it hurt to watch A.J. Brown do what A.J. Brown did?
I know it hurt here in the 615, and I remember texting you during the game. I said, after the long touchdown, I said, that's why you don't trade A.J. Brown. I mean, I coached against him when I was at Mississippi State and he was at Ole Miss, and I just think he's a rare talent. And when you get rare talent on your team, you have to keep rare talent. You have to do whatever's required. And we talked about it before, whether there was some drama involved with him, putting out tweets or things like that. You manage those situations. And I'm sure there's things that happen with him now. I mean, we heard things after the first playoff game against the Giants when he wasn't targeted as often as he'd have liked. I'm quite sure that the situation was managed by the Eagles, whether it be their front office or their coaching staff or whatever. And Nick Sirianni did what he had to do to manage that situation.
So if it were up to me, Coach Bob Shoop's with us. If it were up to me and I was giving out the MVP award, I would have given it to Andy Reid. I felt like, and I was talking about this yesterday, that when I go back to that Super Bowl they played a couple years ago and they beat San Francisco, I can't necessarily remember anything Andy did or didn't do. I mean, I know Garoppolo missed the throw to Emmanuel Sanders that probably would have won the Super Bowl, but I can't think of like one play or one moment. I thought the way that they got those receivers wide open in the second half, they were wide open for touchdowns. I thought that Andy Reid had basically nailed Jonathan Gannon to the wall. And I thought, again, Mahomes had a great game, and I'm not mad that he's MVP, and they never give MVP to a coach. But if I had to give out the MVP award and I could pick anybody, it would have been Andy Reid. Your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I do think Mahomes was the best player on the field and has shown that he is the best player in the NFL. All right, so I'm going to come back and say that, and I'm on the Joe Burrow bandwagon as high as anybody and excited to watch this play out over the next few years. But Andy Reid was awesome. Andy Reid was awesome. And the use of motion, the use of formation, the use of trickeration from the +10 and in, and not just the motion. Every team in college and pro football runs those little in motions to create stacks, to create bunches, things along those lines. But the speed and the tempo, that Tony ran with the motion, was just awesome. And they got the Eagles yinging and yanging, and that's a pro football team that's well coached, leaving guys absolutely uncovered for big plays. And I texted you during the game, too. The other thing I would say this, Mahomes MVP, Andy Reid deserves all the accolades that he gets. Great job in the red zone. But let's not forget, we're killing the Eagles and their defense. One score was a defensive score for the Chiefs, and the other was a 5-yard drive for a touchdown.
I said this yesterday. If I was an Eagle fan, I would be sick to my stomach, not just about the holding call, but I'd be sick to my stomach that you fumbled away a touchdown and that you gave it the punt return.
With incredible momentum. And they hadn't been stopped, and all of a sudden Jalen Hurts' ball, he tries to switch hands, which he did later on, too. He switched hands when he was running down the field on one of his key scrambles. And I saw that. I said, you got to be careful switching hands, man. You got to secure that. And Bolden played one heck of a game. I mean, he was a defensive standout. The linebackers and the group in the front, the Chiefs' defense was really, really very good, I thought, even though the yards may not say it. But just goes to show you that yards don't mean a whole lot in football. It's about getting key stops at key times, creating takeovers. But my point was going to be the punt return. Kendrick Toney, I think, is really a special talent. And, again, I coached against him when he was at Florida. And I always, when he was at Florida and I was coaching against him, whether it was at Tennessee or Mississippi State, he was a guy when he was in the game, like Agnew from the Jacksonville Jaguars, when he was in the game, he was getting the ball. And there were two things that happened. One, there was a penalty on a play, and they were going to throw him a bubble screen. And when the ball got moved back, Andy Reid did a great job. He faked the bubble screen and threw the post
and then
wheel.
Threw it to the tight end.
So he broke a tendency.
Beautiful.
But Tony's punt return was spectacular. I mean, it was a really, really great play, and he's a really, really, really special football player and a special weapon. And to me, you ask about the Titans fans being upset about A.J. Brown. I don't think the Titans look like either of those teams that played the other day. They don't even look – they look in some ways like they're playing a different sport. I didn't see 3 and 4 tight ends in the game and trying to run inside zone up the middle. I saw some creative run games. I saw Pacheco, run into the perimeter on some big-time plays right there. McKinnon the same way. The Eagles didn't use a lot in the run game, but you and I both agreed Craig Well's a unique back, and Miles Sanders wasn't a significant impact in the game. But just how they use Jalen Hurts as a runner as well as a quarterback is really kind of unique how the Eagles have used him during the course of the season.
Coach Bob Shoop's with us, 615-737-1025. 2 for Mahomes now, 2 in the last 4 years. The numbers, what it means. And it kind of depresses me about the Titans. We'll get to that coming up next. Coach Shoop is with us, Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at noon.
That fits the mentality of what they're going to do.
Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton joins Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace to talk all things Titans and NFL.
Much more creative in how you go about calling certain plays.
He's got opinions and insights on the two-tone blue.
That doesn't mean that you can't have great or don't need great quarterback play.
Catch Hutton every Wednesday at noon on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Now is a fantastic time to sell in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. And no one has better intel than the Gary Ashton team. You may be wondering, what is this intel I keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel on where to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Everyone else is getting the same information and competing for the same properties. GaryAshton.com gives you the edge with the best real estate intel in Nashville. No one else even comes close. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate agent for the Preds. Get the confidence to sell your home and find your dream address without the stress. Call the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage today at 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
Al Gill here from my friends at Dunkin'. Warm up and feel the love with Dunkin'. Treat yourself and a loved one to a brown butter toffee hot or iced latte, which is superb paired with the bacon avocado tomato sandwich. Be sure to try the all-new stuffed biscuit bites. It's a warm biscuit dough wrapped around a mixture of bacon, scrambled egg, and cheddar cheese. Visit us at our newly remodeled Dunkin' on Briley Parkway in Nashville or the new Dunkin' in Mount Juliet and our other locations throughout Middle Tennessee. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.
Hey, you think mortgage rates are still super high? Well, think again. Rates have plummeted to a 5-month low. Hey, Willie Donick here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you've got way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month, or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. So if that applies to any of you, listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto. Wipe out all those cards, close in about 14 days, and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. How does that sound to you? Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. So call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Here's the phone number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Stop! Are you about to pay too much for new furniture? Then you need to come by Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in Nashville. Their President's Day sale is going on now. You can buy your new furniture today and get it today, but you do not have to pay today. During Social Furniture's President's Day sale, they have special financing for up to 60 months with no money down. Sectional sofas, mattresses, dining sets, bedroom sets, and more are up to 50% off. At Social Furniture, they say yes, yes, yes.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Chris Johnson's with us. What do you think of Tannehill?
Tannehill, I feel like Tannehill, he's a game manager. I feel like he's a game manager. He's a good quarterback. I've never been that guy that will take anything away from a player or, you know what I'm saying? Because,
sure.
I wish the best for everybody. And I feel like his game, don't fit where the Titans are trying to go.
There you go. That was Chris Johnson on our show at the Super Bowl last week. Coach Bob Shoop is with us. I crunched the numbers on quarterback play, elite quarterback play, so on and so forth. Over the last 4 Super Bowls, 3 have been won by guys that are headed to the Hall of Fame. 2 Mahomes, 1 Brady, and then Matthew Stafford won last year. Over the last 10 years, and I don't know if Russell Wilson's going to the Hall of Fame, and Peyton Manning, when he won his Super Bowl, wasn't the sheriff anymore, so I'm going to say that counts as 1. 7 of the last 10 have been Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks. Whether it's Manning, Brady 4 times, Mahomes twice, 7. The other 3, Nick Foles did it once, Matthew Stafford did it once, and Russell Wilson did it once. So I leave you at this, Coach Shoop. Now that we know that all roads have to go through Mahomes, and will have to go through Mahomes or Burrow for the foreseeable future, does that change your approach if you are building a team and if you need a quarterback? A la the Jets, who it looks like are pushing all their chips in for either Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr.
Hold the phone on Stafford and Wilson, because I think those guys might be Hall of Famers.
No,
as well.
Do not stick Stafford in the Hall of Fame.
No. Other than the fact he played on the Lions for X amount of years. I mean, the numbers are pretty awesome.
And Joe Burrow plays on the Bengals. And because he's Joe Burrow, they're not the Bengals anymore.
And he has Jamar Chase, and he has T. Higgins, and he has
He
Hayden
had
Hurst.
Calvin Johnson.
He did for a year or two.
All I say is this. Peyton Manning made the Colts. They were the worst organization in football. Peyton made them into what they were. Joe Burrow's made them into what they were. Matthew Stafford was with the Lions, and they stayed the Lions.
And then he had good players around him, and he won a Super Bowl. I'm just saying. I'm a Stafford fan. I'm
anti-Stafford.
I'm a Stafford fan, and Russell at the time, all arrows pointed that he was going to have a Hall of Fame career. Rarely he had I'm a Pittsburgh Pirate fan. He had an Andrew McCutcheon-like drop-off all of a sudden this year that you just go, oh, my God, what happened? But yes, the answer is you got to push all your chips to the middle. We've talked about this before. There's only 32 starting NFL quarterbacks. And of those 32 starting NFL quarterbacks, there's probably 7, maybe 8 who are in the rarefied air of being the guy.
Oh, I think there's 4.
And they're probably all 3 of them are in the AFC.
Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Rodgers.
3 of them are in the AFC.
I mean, I'm not ready. Are you ready to put Jalen Hurts in that group?
You and I have discussed this, and he and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert are on the precipice of that. They are right there. I mean,
and so is Lamar Jackson.
I agree. Again, I'm
in
not
his own special.
Yes,
Lamar
he's
way.
in a unique. He and Justin Fields are a unique type of player. I mean, anybody who runs for 1,000 yards in a season from the quarterback position gets his own special category. And you need to find an offensive coordinator who works to that strength right there. But to me, yes, the answer is yes. Yes, 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 yes. And we've talked about it, and I like Ryan Tannehill well enough. I really do. But I don't think, when we're talking about these other guys, I'm not even sure it's even close. And it's funny because I was listening to your segment right before I came on, and, to the naked eye, I like Derek Carr to the naked eye, but when you read all those statistics, you moneyballed me. I mean, you gave me numbers that back up the facts that that's not a good investment. And to me, so we're all the 28 in your call, 26 in my call. Other teams are searching for that guy, and that's So I mean, it's all about the quarterback position and being elite at the quarterback position.
So here's my theory about if you are one of the 25 percenters. If you are one of the 28 teams that doesn't have, again, in my opinion, Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, or Rodgers. If you are one of those teams, you have a chance to get there once. So, for instance, Matt Ryan got there once. And then once you lose that or win that, you're done.
Your window's closed.
Yes, you get the one shot at it, the 1 year where you didn't finish in first place the year before, so you have somewhat of an easier schedule. You hit on all the right free agents. You get a nice draft pick in there, and you've got good coordinators. And then after all of that, everybody gets paid. Your coordinators end up becoming head coaches, and you have to play a first place schedule, and you go right back to what you were before. Just like how the Eagles did it 1 year, and then, that Carson Wentz, Nick Foles thing, and they were right back. Jared Goff did it 1 year, and then he was right back to – that is what I'm not trying to be rude by saying. That's where Jalen Hurts is for me until he proves otherwise. Jalen Hurts is in the category of the Carson Wentz, Nick Foles Eagles, Jared Goff's Rams, Matt Ryan's Falcons, Cam Newton's Panthers, Manning's Colts, Mahomes' Chiefs, Brady's Patriots, where you're there you're in at least the divisional round weekend every year, and if you lose in that, it's a bad season.
That's fair. I'm gonna take a different point of view on this. Having gone against Jalen again, going back to college, having coached against Jalen Hurts when I was at Tennessee, having watched his career at Alabama and then in Oklahoma, the guy's a winner. There's something about this guy that's unique and special. The 600-pound squatter, the powerlifting champion out of the state of Texas, the guy whose dad was the coach and pushed him along the way. This guy's got something special about him. And when he fumbled the ball the other day, he didn't, like Trevor Lawrence in the playoff game against the Chargers, didn't faze him one bit. And he put up numbers the other day that were special for the Super Bowl. I texted you in the middle of the first quarter. I said he's on a 250-100, pace here for 250 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. He had 300 yards passing, 70-plus yards rushing. And I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
I mean, Foles in the Super Bowl was pretty good too.
No doubt. I'm 100% with you, but there's something about this guy that I think is pretty unique and pretty special. Now, to your point, is it Sirianni? Is it Steichen? Steichen's gone now. Are they going to bump up Johnson to be the offensive coordinator? All those things. So there's always some type of change, and from year to year, the 2022 Titans identity is different than the 2023 Titans identity. The 2022 Eagles are going to be different than the 2023 Eagles. A lot of things, and I think the Eagles are built for a little bit of a window of success here, for sure.
So you think Jalen Hurts gets back?
I think I think.
Let's go around the room right now. Does Jalen Hurts make it to another Super Bowl in the next 5 years? Ian, you go first. Does Jalen Hurts make it to a Super Bowl in the next 5 years?
I'll go yes.
Bob?
Yes.
I'm going to say no. And it's nothing against Jalen Hurts. It's just I believe that that's how this league is, that if you are not elite, like I think Joe Burrow's going back to a Super Bowl. I don't think this is the last that we've seen of Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl last year. I think he will be back. But if you are not the elite, if you are not like the John Elway of your generation, you go once. Steve McNair went once.
Who's better than him in the NFC?
With the Eagles?
Who's better than Jalen Hurts in the NFC? Aaron Rodgers at age 39, but he's probably going to be he could be on an AFC team next year. And the 49ers as a team might be better. But I don't see anybody else even – I'm not sure I see another better player than him.
But did we see Jalen Hurts – but this time last year, did we see Jalen Hurts doing that?
No, I think he's in his third year, and he's in his second year of that program. And I think Doug Peterson saw something in him and drafted him, in the late first, high second round right there. And I respect that guy, watching him coach the Eagles first and foremost, and watching what he did with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars this year. That guy can ball out. That guy can ball out. He can coach. And so he saw something in him. And I think Sirianni, Steichen, and these offensive people, they've put a team around him with Sanders, the group in the backfield, the tight ends, Goddard, the receivers they have with Smith and A.J. Brown and Watkins in the slot. And that offensive line, that is a group right there that's built for, in my opinion, a little bit of a run here.
I'm not doubting it. I just think it's so hard in the NFL. And then the first place schedule is a real thing. Like I actually was talking to Tony Khan, who's the owner of the Jags. His dad owns the Jags. I was talking to Tony Khan at the Super Bowl. And I was like, you do realize that next year, because Jacksonville won the division, you get Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen next year. Like, the Titans don't have to deal with that this upcoming season.
That's right. You're right.
And so I think that plays a role into it, right? So Philadelphia went from a second-place schedule, and they played the AFC South this year, as opposed to next year it's going to be different. And I can't tell you who that team is going to be that's going to be the Philadelphia of next year, other than I feel comfortable in saying that there will be a team that is like the Philadelphia of next year out of the NFC.
If you just go through the other 15 teams in the NFC, though, I don't know who's better than
the
Eagles
or
Jalen Hurts.
But this time last year, we didn't think the Packers were going to suck this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're on the decline.
But we didn't know that then. We didn't know they were going to trade Devontae Adams. We didn't know. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, I mean, let's use Minnesota as an example, right? All these guys get to one. Matt Ryan, all of them for the most part get to one.
So it's Kirk Cousins' turn to get to one.
Could it be, the year that Justin Jefferson pops, they hit it out of the park in free agency, they find a Hassan Reddick type player, and they just, everything clicks for Minnesota, and they go all the way. The Lions got hot at the end of last year. They're going to have kind of an easy schedule, and Jared Goff is a veteran, legitimate quarterback, and they've had high draft picks, and Jamison Williams is going to play the whole year. The Lions. Could they? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm not saying the Lions are going to compete for the Super Bowl.
Dallas.
Yeah, but I think the quarterback there is pretty well established as to what he is.
I agree, but to me,
then again, they all get to one.
That's what I mean. He can get to one. I mean, Dallas is built to be that team that gets to one. I think ultimately Mike McCarthy is the preventive measure from getting them to one.
I actually thought McCarthy did a pretty good job this year, and I'm usually an anti-McCarthy guy. I actually thought McCarthy had a pretty good season, all things considered. Coach Shoop is with us. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. The reports are the Titans would be interested in Derek Carr. I don't believe that. But if it's not Tannehill, what are realistic options for the Titans at the quarterback position? Coach Shoop and I will discuss, and we will do that next. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I think it's a really good move.
TD, it's never the offseason for ESPN's Teron Davenport.
I mean, that's something you obviously have to look at.
He's always talking about what's next for the Tennessee Titans.
Quarterback is a really important thing that they have to get determined.
Check out TD, Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, and Friday mornings at 8:30. Plus, the Talkin' with TD podcast.
Looking forward to that.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
This week at the Electronic Express President's Day sale, get instant savings of up to 40% off at every department, including all 4K TVs, laptops and tablets, housewares, furniture, mattresses, and more. Don't forget, we have up to 50% off all your appliance needs in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Shop the President's Day sales event at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
Former NFL general manager Thomas Dimitroff, you hired Ran Carthon in Atlanta when you went there, his first job in the NFL outside of playing. Take us through what you saw out of Ran Carthon then, and take us through what you think of Ran Carthon now.
So back then, you think about someone that you bring in 2008, right? It was early. We were trying to place our people in the right spots. We needed someone in pro personnel who had an understanding. Out the gate, what I realized, and we all know who his dad was, so he comes from very good stock. He's been around football people. He was incredibly passionate and encyclopedic about not only the players that we were looking at in the league, but he had a real understanding of the rising collegiate players. That's something that very few people do. So he followed the high school people as well. What I realized, he had a passion for it. He had a passion for personnel.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Still overpaying for a razor? In this economy? Gross. At Dollar Shave Club, you can get a top shelf shave at a regular shelf price. We've been hawking shaving products for years online, and we're excited to bring you the same great quality and low prices at a store near you. From high-quality stainless steel blades to super smooth shave creams, Dollar Shave Club's in the business of making your shave easier. Find Dollar Shave Club in the men's razor aisle. Getting your Dollar Shave Club razor wherever you want. Isn't that great?
Green Trees Company wants to send you to see The Sandman, Adam Sandler, this Friday at Bridgestone Arena. Listen all week long to Nashville's best sports talk for your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Adam Sandler live, courtesy of our friends at Green Trees Company in Hendersonville.
On the Wednesday edition of Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace, we'll continue to take a look around the quarterback market and what the Titans need to do in the offseason. All of that from 11 to 2 on 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt football head coach Clark Lee. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
If he called you and said, I can make a deal for Rodgers, it'll cost me the 11th overall pick, and I'm going to have to take on $30 million extra at the quarterback position, but I get Rodgers over Tannehill, what would your advice to Rand be?
My advice would, you have to dig down. I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the best to ever play. I think he is really, really talented. Does he still have it? Does he still want it? With all of this other stuff, he's a mature guy, of course, but he's got all of these vision quests that he's going on. I don't want to overplay that, but as a GM, you would go down every alleyway trying to figure out exactly what he is before. I'm not worried about the talent and his ability to huck the ball and do things. I'm not worried about even his leadership ability. He has, of course, born leadership elements. I know some people he might agitate. I just want to know where his head is. If he's only coming there for a year or two, oh, my God. When I traded for Tony Gonzalez, I told his agent, you better effing tell me the truth here. I am not going to be in this if he's going to be with me for 1 year because I will be fired. Mm-hmm. Where Rand is right now, he needs to be very, very clear that he's not moving on from a guy who's a good, solid guy and going to a guy that after a year is looking to, pull up his tent and go. That's an important thing.
There you go. That's Thomas Dimitroff, former NFL general manager on our show last week at the Super Bowl. Coach Shoup is with us. So the report, Ian Rappaport said the Titans would be interested in Derek Carr, but I'm not convinced of that because I compiled a list of 17 categories over the courses of their career, the last 3 years and last year, and Tannehill ranks ahead of Carr in 14 of the 17. Tannehill only makes $27 million. So using that as the baseline, that no, I am not moving off of a B quarterback to pick up a B quarterback. What is realistic for the Titans? And to me, it's either Aaron Rodgers or a young guy. That's it. If it's not that, it's Tannehill. Your thoughts?
Yeah, my position A is number 17. Keep him out there. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, and again, like I said, to the naked eye, for whatever reason I had in my head, when I was coming over here today, to the naked eye, Derek Carr, maybe, oh, boy, Derek Carr, I've seen him make good throws. I've seen him do this. I've seen him in the playoffs. I have memories of him doing this, that, and the other thing. And all of a sudden, when you read all those statistics that Tannehill's better than him in and for less money, that's a no-brainer then. Aaron Rodgers, whatever Thomas Dimitroff just said is 100% correct. I mean, Rand Carthon's first big move can't be to bring Aaron Rodgers in here for 1 year. I mean, I just don't think that. And, we saw that this year a little bit with Tom Brady. As guys get older, I don't want to say they get distracted, but there's real life issues. I mean, your body's starting to break down to a certain extent. Whatever the issues are in your life, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't been without those issues over the last handful of years. He's certainly two-time MVP in the last 2 seasons. No question about that. And yes, I think he's one of the most elitely talented quarterbacks of all time. But if you're bringing him in here for 1 year just to extend his career 1 year and he's got one shot at this thing, I just don't see that. He's got to be in this thing for a couple years and to say, this is where I want to be, this is what and I want to lead this team. I think the deep dive that Thomas Dimitroff just said is really, really critical if they want to go that direction. And if it's not that direction, we're talking about these young guys. If we're talking about a draft pick, I'm just not sold on the 2023 draft. I think there's better quarterbacks going to be available in the 2024 draft. I think Ryan Tannehill, backed up by Josh Dobbs and or someone else, is a suitable quarterback room for the 2023 season.
So here's my thing, though, is that as long as Vrabel's the coach and Tannehill's the quarterback, the Titans will never be in position to get a great quarterback, because unless they can do what Andy Reid did with Mahomes and, have the foresight and go up and trade and so do it so stealthily and everything else, because Vrabel's going to win too many games and Tannehill's going to win too many games. I mean, this year they're picking 11th in large part because the owner fired the general manager in the middle of the season to throw the team into complete chaos, and because Tannehill got hurt at the end of the year, which wasn't his fault. I mean, it was that horrendous offensive line. But, I mean, with Tannehill as your quarterback, you are going to win at least 9 games. With Vrabel as your coach, you're probably going to at least win those kind of games. So I almost look at it as, if you think that these guys are remotely close, you may have to jump up and take one this year, because with Tannehill as the quarterback next year, there's no way that you're picking for Caleb Williams or Drake May. And if Caleb Williams is what everybody says Caleb Williams is, and he does look the part, if he's that guy, you could pick 4th next year, and you're not going to get to move up to number 1, because whoever has number 1 is not going to trade it. So that's my long-winded way of saying that I almost feel like with Tannehill coming back next year as the quarterback, which is a move that I would favor, I almost do feel like the Titans are still stuck somewhat in quarterback purgatory.
That's fair. I guess, and to me, the combine's now 15 days away.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I think less than that now.
God, 15 days? We played the Super Bowl 2 days ago.
and then these individual pro
like
days.
The MLS, these guys I think the MLS season goes from like February to December.
Between the individual pro days, between the interviews, the draft's a little over 2 months away. I think, like I said, I have my concerns about the big three. And by the big three, I assume that we're talking about Young, Stroud, and Levis. I have my concerns about each of those guys for different reasons. And I'm not in those meetings, and I'm not at those pro days, and I'm not at this, that, and the other thing. But just off the film and off their career numbers and things along those lines, I have some concerns about each one of those guys for different reasons. Now, I don't know if they can get up to I've seen mock drafts recently that have them going 1, 2, and 3 also. And let's go back to the topic sentence of the very first segment. Quarterback is clearly the position. And to me, I don't know I don't look at those guys and think, wow, that's the next Joe Burrow. Wow, that's the next Patrick Mahomes. Wow, that's the next Josh Allen. And everybody's got their own player comps and things like that. But I just don't, for one reason or another, I don't see it. Now,
I was told off the record at the Super Bowl by somebody who very high up in the NFL, or at least was, that there's a legitimate chance Will Levis is going number 1 this year. Like straight face, looked at me and was like, because I was like, what do you make of all this Will Levis stuff? He's like, oh, I think there's a pretty good chance he goes number 1. I was like, what? He sucked at Kentucky. And it's like, yeah, no, but I think he's like the GMs around the league I talked to. I think there's a pretty good chance Will Levis is going number one. I can't believe it, but that's what he told me.
Well, again, I mean, he's so big. He's so strong. When he went to Penn State, he was in a competition with Sean Clifford for the first part of his career. Could never get to the point that he really beat him out. Had one start, really was semi-effective in the game. They put Clifford back in the game, and Clifford pulled the game out in the fourth quarter. He had some, in not mop-up duty, that's not a fair way to put it, but in backup duty, got into some games and was more of a direct snap runner, a la Tim Tebow, things like that.
But Joe Burrow didn't play at Ohio State, and Tom Brady had to ride the bench at Michigan.
Understand. And then when he made the move to Kentucky in 2021, Will Levis had a big league year. No, there's no doubting that. And Liam Cohen was his offensive coordinator, who had NFL experience. They built an offense around him. They had some weapons, and he did a good job. This year, Kentucky had a bad offensive line. He was running for his life. They did have a good running back. They had a new offensive coordinator. And he threw the ball to the other team a whole bunch of times. Now, he did have some good games early in the year. He had a good game against Florida. He beat, Kentucky beat Florida in the Swamp. And he certainly has upside. And he definitely has upside. But, he'd have to make, what I would have liked to see is that Joe Burrow from 2018 to 2019 improvement or something along those lines to make me feel like, okay, this has something here. I mean, I know the obvious player comp is the Josh Allen because he's a big, strong dude who can do all these things. And without question, he passes the eye test and all those things. But I have my concerns about him. Young is really, really good. I mean, Young's a talented dude.
One thing, Coach Bob Stoops, with this one thing that I keep getting asked, and I have no real way to put my finger on any of this, is what about Hendon Hooker? Because I do believe if Hooker doesn't hurt his knee against South Carolina, he goes in the first round. Now, I don't think he goes in the top 5, but I think Hooker probably goes around 9. I think he's probably the 4th quarterback off the board ahead of Anthony Richardson if he doesn't hurt his knee. Now he hurt his knee. He's a little bit older. A 2nd-round pick doesn't have a 5th-year option. That was a college scheme that he ran at Tennessee. And yet, people want to know about Hendon Hooker, and I have a hard time counting out Hendon Hooker.
I agree. I have a hard time counting him out, but because of the injury, and he's been hurt before. He was hurt at Virginia Tech as well. I think there's some risk there, is what I would say. So I'm more sold on Hendon Hooker than I am on some of these other guys, to be honest. I mean, I think Bryce Young's really good. I told you my concerns on him are size. C.J. Stroud, I would like to see more film. I probably need to study him a little closer. What he did against Georgia in the bowl game really caught my attention, and what he did last year in the Rose Bowl caught my attention. But in the Big Ten, with the group of receivers that he's had over the course of his career, I'd like to think maybe you and I could put up some pretty significant numbers. But Hendon Hooker's an intrigue to me. Anthony Richardson's a freak athlete. Coached against Anthony Richardson this year. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic.
I know, but your team wasn't very good, and you guys held him in check pretty well.
I agree. I think each of these guys has warts. I don't think there's a surefire guy. I think what Hendon Hooker did – now let's keep this in mind. When Hendon Hooker transferred to Tennessee, he was not the starter.
No.
He came in and he competed with Joe Milton, and he beat Joe Milton out, or perhaps Joe Milton lost the job in some way, shape, or form. But and what he's done over the last 2 years for Coach Heupel and the Vols has been off the charts. And he's a great story, and he's a unique athlete who can throw the deep ball. He's a pretty accurate thrower. He can make plays with his feet. He can make plays with his arm. And to me, I think the injury will prevent him, obviously, from participating in a lot of things he needs to participating in draft, leading up to the draft. But by all accounts, when he went to the Senior Bowl, was impressive in meetings, impressive with how he handled himself. So I think although he won't be maybe that first-round guy, I think he's someone that I think all 32 teams have on their radar for, hey, let's take a chance on this guy in round 2, round 3. I don't think he's going to last through the second round or the first 100 picks in the draft.
Do you think if the Titans took him, let's say they moved back in the second round, picked up some more picks, and they took Hendon Hooker, mid-late second round, would you think that that's a good pick or a risky pick, or what would you think of that?
Both. It would probably be a good pick, and it would probably be a risky pick. I think.
You know what's great, though, for Hooker? I mean, the fact that with the knee, he's going to sit the bench no matter what.
The redshirt year that we've talked about when we talked about Malik Willis. I mean, He needs it. That's the truth of the matter. He was in, I don't want to say, a gimmicky offense is the 100% the wrong way to state what Tennessee's offense is, but it is not a pro-style offense. It is a fast-paced, tempo, you're always going to throw, if baseball were 12 innings, there'd be more hits and more runs. Well, when you run 95 plays in a game instead of the average 60 plays in the NFL, and you're spread out all over the field against, some good defenses, some bad defenses, and everything in between defenses, you're going to throw for a lot of yards.
But what do you think about the fact that it's clear that we're bringing more of the college game to the NFL?
Without question. You saw a lot of that. Even in this, even in the Super Bowl, you saw that. I saw a lot of tweets whenever the Eagles lined up in those spread, stacked 2x2 formations. Hey, looks like the Vols. And I 100% agree with that. The college game and the pro game have never, been more mirrored one another more. And I would never draft a quarterback who can't make plays with both his arm and his feet. The days of the sit in the pocket, stand there, take a hit type guy, that's great and all. But watching what Patrick Mahomes does with his feet, watching what Jalen Hurts did with his feet, watching what Joe Burrow and Josh Allen do with their feet is really, really special. And it's probably Trevor Lawrence, what he does with his feet, probably what separates those guys even from maybe, I think Justin Herbert's really good, but probably is what separates them a little bit from him even, if we're getting really technical about this.
Coach Bob Shoop is with us. We will get to your phones, I promise. But the one thing that I do feel comfortable about saying after the Super Bowl on Sunday, and I want Coach Shoop's opinion because I trust it. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What's up, everybody? Michelle Knezvik here for Superbook Sports. And listen, make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, no guys across the pond setting lines for American sports, just the best team of odds makers in the business behind the counter at Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, check out some of the best odds boosts and promo bets anywhere. Download the Superbook Sportsbook app or visit superbook.com to start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
If you missed the latest from Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
Do you think they make a move, or do you think they believe, okay, we're in a good place, let's just continue to see how that goes? But that also can backfire on them, because if they feel they're going in the right direction, and then after the trade deadline, then all of a sudden you start dropping games, then people will come back and say, well, why didn't you do something?
Yeah, I think I'd really be surprised if they traded big assets. Some of the prospects we discussed last week when they put out the rankings there, they've got some good young players in the system. They've held on to their first-round pick the last few years. I'd be surprised if they really dive in and try to do much big. I wouldn't rule out, especially if a guy gets banged up here or there and there's a hole on the lower part of the roster, pick up a veteran, something like. I think I could see that, but I don't think anything big is going to happen to add. What would be more likely is if they faltered, right, and they really had the wheels come off in the next 10 games, and they maybe had an opportunity to grab an extra first-round pick or a second-round pick for somebody, or a prospect that they really like, then I think they might have to look at that. They don't want to do that, but that's just how you have to do it if you look at the math, and the math isn't good. The math is reasonable right now. It's not awful. They're on the outside looking in, so they've got to do the climbing, right? But I still think there's a realistic path to get into the playoffs for sure if they play well.
Let's get your thoughts. You got some Predators thoughts lining up. 615-737-1025. Matthew from Jolton texts in and says, if it wasn't for Saros, we'd be in a similar boat as Chicago.
Yep, but they have Saros.
And
Chicago
yes,
doesn't.
And that's fair to say that, okay, well,
and
if
Saros
you didn't
is
have
going
him,
to be here. He's been here for 3 years. He's going to be here for another few years. He's young.
I think that the point of the fans is, or at least the way that I interpret it is, yes, you have Saros and you feel good about it.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Imagine her delight when she unwraps a luxurious spa day from A Moment's Peace, the ultimate day spa and salon in Cool Springs. We're open all day to help you in person or by phone or online at amomentspeace.com. And whether you spend a little or go lavish, you're a thoughtful romantic this Valentine's Day. Time's up, so stop in at A Moment's Peace in Cool Springs across I-65 from Galleria Mall at the intersection of Carruthers Parkway and Bakers Bridge Avenue. Call or click right now, 224-0770. Online at amomentspeace.com.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
How does it feel to get 2? What's the first feel? What is it? Is it different?
It hasn't even sat in yet. I think just the time of my career I got it, and the failure of the last 2 years of losing the Super Bowl and then losing an AFC Championship game. This one hits different. The first one, it was all like happy-go-lucky, everything like that. This one, you appreciate the hard work that it took to get here.
That was Patrick Mahomes after the Super Bowl. Coach Shoop is with us. And I just love the initial reaction there where Steve Young asks, what's it feel to get 2? And it's different when Steve Young asks that question than if I were to ask it or you were to ask it. Because Steve Young's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but Steve Young has... One.
1994.
And so when Steve Young says, hey, what's it feel to get 2? You hear Mahomes there for a second just go, oh, man. It's like he knows that he has arrived at a different level in the club now that he's got 2. And so I said this yesterday. I want your opinion on this, Coach, because you know this as well as anybody. I say, okay, the top 100 came out 4 years ago when they had the 100th year celebration. And it was Sammy Baugh, Johnny Unitas, and Otto Graham that are too old for me.
And me.
And so it was Brady and Montana and Elway and Staubach and Marino and Favre and Peyton Manning were the 100 along with those 3 older guys. I said yesterday I would take Brett Favre out and I would put Patrick Mahomes in. So if I were to do this list, and again, I'm taking Sammy Baugh and Otto Graham and Johnny Unitas off because I'm too...
Different era.
Yep. Brady.
Yes.
Manning 2.
Yes.
Montana 3. Elway 4. Mahomes 5. Staubach 6. Marino. Rodgers, who was not in the top 100, but he's won 2 MVPs since then. Favre 9. What do you think about sliding in Mahomes after Brady, Manning, Montana, and Elway?
I probably have Montana ahead of Manning.
I think a lot of people would too.
Yeah, I'd probably go Montana ahead of Manning, but that wasn't really the question. I couldn't agree more. Rodgers and Favre each have 1, correct? They don't have 2.
Correct.
Yeah, then I think they're right where they should be. And I'd put Rodgers ahead of Favre. I mean, Rodgers has accomplished, in about the same amount of time, equal to that, if not more than Favre, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I think of, and maybe it's more recency bias, but I think when I think of the Packers, I more think of Aaron Rodgers than I do think of Brett Favre. I might think of Bart Starr before both of them because he has 2.
I don't want to disrespect Dan Marino.
Dan Marino's numbers, Dan Marino has 0, and he got to the Super Bowl in the 1985 season, as a young player when he led them against the 49ers. And I just always remember whoever the announcer was at the end of the game said, oh, you're young, you'll get back here, and he never got back there. But Dan Marino might have changed Dan Marino, Dan Fouts, those guys in that 80s when I was in high school and college, those guys, that's when the game changed from a predominantly run game where you turned and hand the ball to Franco Harris or O.J. Simpson or Walter Payton to an air it out to the game that we know today. I mean, had those things. And so I think Dan Marino is where he is, and he's the anomaly, because he doesn't have the rings, but boy, he changed the game.
Well, would you put Rodgers ahead of Marino?
Yeah.
Really?
Where did you have him?
I had Brady.
Yeah.
Manning. And I understand. I understand people with Montana.
I went Montana, Manning.
To me, I just think Manning was so good in the regular season. Montana has more Super Bowls, 4-2, as compared to Peyton Manning. But Montana also didn't have to play against Tom Brady. And I do feel like if Peyton Manning didn't have to play against Tom Brady, Peyton would at least have 3, maybe 4 or 5, just because he had to go through Brady all those times. I have Manning ahead of Montana.
I got you.
I know that.
That's fine.
Elway at 4.
Okay.
Mahomes at 5.
Gotcha.
Staubach at 6.
Yep.
I cannot put Marino ahead of Roger Staubach because Staubach has the 2 championships with Dallas, and that was in an era where at that point in time, Washington was really good, and
he had to play the Steelers twice. I mean, and Terry Terry Bradshaw has 4.
Yeah, but Terry was more of a Ryan Tannehill.
Turn
around, hand the ball off type.
But throw the ball deep to Swan and Stallworth and that crew of guys.
Like Jalen Hurts.
He's in that next group. Group. But Terry Bradshaw, let's not preclude that Terry Bradshaw has 4 Super Bowl rings.
I just think Brett Favre's resume, honestly, does not compute with these guys. And I don't even think it computes with Mahomes at this point. Mahomes is only 6 years in, but I think Mahomes' resume is significantly better than Favre's at this point in time.
Agreed. And I put Rodgers and Marino ahead of Favre, thinking about it.
Would you put Mahomes behind Elway or ahead of Elway?
Behind, with the understanding that he will eventually pass.
Oh, I think to me, I don't think he's going to catch Brady at 7. I mean, it could happen, but I think it's really hard to win 7 Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. And I think Brady has kind of warped the standard of what's what in our minds. I could easily see Mahomes becoming 2 on this list.
I agree, but that's what I said. Behind, with the understanding that he will eventually pass Elway.
So everybody wants my opinion, and I guess your opinion. A.J. Brown has fired off a tweet here to Juju Smith-Schuster. So Juju Smith-Schuster sent out a tweet, like a Valentine's Day tweet, Coach, about it's to and from, and it's got a picture of James Bradbury, and it says, "I'll hold you when it matters most." Juju Smith-Schuster. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. A.J. Brown replied and said, "First off, congratulations. Y'all deserve it. This is lame. You was on the way out the league before Mahomes resurrected your career on your 1-year deal, TikTok boy. He admitted that he grabbed you, but don't act like that or ever was. But congratulations again." That's from A.J. Brown. Let me say this. I don't think A.J. Brown is completely wrong. I mean, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a tight end.
I'm not a Juju Smith-Schuster fan. I mean, I
think he's gotten too fat. I think he's a tight end.
He's got the big button legs to him, no question. And when we were watching the game the other day, we were comparing him to Chig. And he does a lot of those type of things right there. And he runs those choice routes, and he gets the first downs. And he really did play well the other day, and Mahomes, put him in position to make some plays. But, all that stuff, that's the stuff that needs to be managed. You don't trade guys for that stuff, but we don't need that stuff. And
like if you were AJ,
I'm glad
AJ.
But I am glad that AJ defended his boy on that one.
I'll say this on the Smith-Schuster front. So he's always a 1-year deal player. Like he's been that the last couple of years. He was supposed to be the next great Steeler wide receiver. Like it was supposed to go from Hines Ward and Plaxico Burress to Mike Wallace, to Antonio Brown, to Juju Smith-Schuster. And Juju really never was that. He was a good number 2 when Antonio Brown was a number 1. Now, Juju is so much thicker than he used to be. He's not a wide receiver. He's a tight end. Well, he's a great number 2 tight end behind Travis Kelce. But what's going to happen is somebody's going to sign him to wide receiver money, thinking he's a good wide receiver, and then he's going to get out there on a team that has him as the number 2 receiver, and he's going to stink, and everybody's going to say, how'd that happen?
Well, I think that's guys in these situations never want to be listed as tight end because there's minimum salaries. The salary for the tight end and the salary for the receiver is totally different. And I think that football today is more positionless than it's ever been. I mean, we watched the 49ers line up McCaffrey all over the place or Deebo Samuel all over the place. It's weapons. That's what it is. And he has value, and he is a weapon. Now, he's not a deep threat weapon and things like that, but he can catch the ball. He can make those yards, and he loves his little TikTok dance when he gets the first down and all that stuff. But in that system, I think Patrick Mahomes, Kelce, and the guys that they've got there, he's perfect for what they do. But you are right. you are definitely right. He was supposed to be the next big thing in Pittsburgh, and certainly didn't fit maybe the culture of what a Pittsburgh Steeler fan would like. And if you go on, if you follow what they say, there's a lot of Pittsburgh fans that are glad that he's no longer a Steeler.
Coach Bob Shoop with us as always on a Tuesday. Coach Shoop, good to see you.
Thanks, man.
Coming up next, there's a rumor about Ryan Tannehill and where he's going to go next. We will get to that. Stillman and Company. Coach Shoop, good to see you. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You watch the game.
Haskins again doesn't get it. Jaguars have won the AFC South.
We talk the game.
The offensive side of the football for the Titans, who should be back next season.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
You can track through the savannas of Africa. Wait on the magic moment on the Great Plains of North America. Or find the thrills of Patagonia. You can book your dream hunt at the SEI Convention, coming to Nashville for the very first time. Come find your adventure February 22nd through February 25th. It's the ultimate sportsman's market, a place for every hunter. And this year, it's happening Music City style, with special performances by Lee Brice, Big and Rich, The Frontman with Gretchen Wilson, and of course, Leonard Skinner. It's a celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, February 22nd through February 25th. Come find your adventure. Just log on to safariclub.org. One more time, that's safariclub.org. This convention will sell out, so reserve your spot today. Come find your adventure.
When that door closed behind me and I was free, the main thing I wanted to do was just re-enter society, get a job, and see my family.
It's okay.
There's a new state office of re-entry in Tennessee, specifically to help folks like me get jobs. Go to tnworkready.com or visit your local American Job Center. Re-entry is a normal thing, and it's okay.
Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
tnworkready.com.
Now, your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Nashville Predators dropped their game versus Arizona last night by a final of 4-2. Head coach John Hines spoke about the loss after the game.
Well, it's a tough loss. It's it's disappointing. I thought we had a couple breakdowns, where they wound up scoring, but I thought from our opportunity offensively, I thought we had good looks, and unfortunately tonight the puck didn't go in, and obviously you needed 3 or 4 to win tonight, and we didn't get it.
The Preds currently sit 5 points back of a playoff spot. They are back in action on Thursday when they host Boston. The search for a next head coach is finally over for 2 NFL teams. The Indianapolis Colts officially announced Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen as their head coach, while the Arizona Cardinals hired Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. The Tennessee Titans officially named Green Bay executive Chad Brinker as their new assistant general manager, and the Las Vegas Raiders have officially released quarterback Derek Carr, making him a free agent. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. It is officially the off-season. Has Derek Carr, Ian, has he officially been released yet?
Correct. He has, yes.
So he was released, what, an hour ago?
I think it was around just before 3 o'clock. I don't know if it was officially official, but that's when the reports were coming out. Yeah, right before 3.
Okay, so Derek Carr is officially released. And as I have said many times, Derek Carr is the belle of the ball because there are all these teams out there that don't have quarterbacks right now. And there's only a couple of teams that have real options. The Packers, for instance, we think have 2 quarterbacks, but we don't know. So how many teams right now don't have quarterbacks? The Raiders don't have a quarterback. The Saints don't have a quarterback. The Commanders don't have a quarterback. The Buccaneers don't have a quarterback. The Falcons don't have a quarterback. The Jets don't have a quarterback. And I could go on and on and on. And all these teams are lighting up because they want Derek Carr. Not because they think Derek Carr is some great quarterback, but they want Derek Carr because they need a quarterback. And so yesterday, the Jets hired Todd Downing to be their passing game coordinator. Now, I think this had been in the works for a little bit, and that's why I think Todd Downing, when his mugshot started circulating a couple of weeks ago, I think that's why Todd Downing did those couple of days in jail, because it was like, let's just get it over with, and let's move on because we got a job coming down the pipe, and it's the Jets. And he is their passing game coordinator. Now, many of you are mortified at the idea of Todd Downing coordinating anything ever again, and I am certainly amongst that group. But that didn't stop the people in New York from wondering, well, what about Ryan Tannehill? Connor Hughes, who covers the Jets for SNY, I guess he covers both the Jets and Giants, SNY, it's a sports television channel in New York, says that Ryan Tannehill could be on the Jets' radar. In fact, he did even more of a breakdown on SNY.com, and it says, quote, the Jets will do their homework on every available quarterback, but the pecking order seems to be as follows. Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Ryan Tannehill. At the end, they write, a Carr consolation prize to Rodgers wouldn't be the worst thing. He's a very underrated passer. The Saints appear as the front runners for him, and there are concerns across the league with how Carr's personality would mesh with New York. Garoppolo, familiar with Robert Saleh, will be linked to New York if the team misses on Rodgers and Carr. Don't sleep on Tannehill. There is a feeling around the NFL that the Jets are much higher on him than some want to believe. I have no idea how the Jets feel about Ryan Tannehill. I think it's pretty obvious to me that the Jets are somewhat circling the Titans' wagons a little bit, right? They've hired Todd Downing. They've hired Keith Carter. Well, Ryan Tannehill's better at what he does than those two guys are at what they do. But here's the problem. Tannehill's on my team right now. Like, I mean, that's great that the Jets might want Ryan Tannehill fourth. But that would lead me to the question of, well, then who's the Titans quarterback? And this reminds me of something that came out years ago. Kyle Shanahan had just taken over San Francisco. And there was this big, kind of rumor that had been building for years that he loved Kirk Cousins going back to the days when he was in Washington with his dad as the head coach. And remember, Washington didn't love Kirk Cousins. They franchise tagged him. Then they franchise tagged him again because they never really wanted to give Kirk Cousins the long-term deal. And so there was a rumor that came out at the Combine that was San Francisco was going to go all in to try to get Kirk Cousins. And I remember Floyd walked into the office, and I said to him, what do you think of this rumor that San Francisco is going to get Kirk Cousins? And he said, well, who's going to be the quarterback in Washington? I said, I don't know. But I guess they'll figure it out. And he laughed, and he just, you can't do that. If you got a quarterback and you get rid of your quarterback, you have to have a quarterback. You can't do that. Well, I'm not getting rid of Ryan Tannehill if my option is nobody at quarterback, and Malik Willis or Josh Dobbs is a nobody at quarterback. If I am moving off of Ryan Tannehill, a B-level player for B or C-level money at $27 million, if I'm moving off of Ryan Tannehill, I want somebody better in return. So if you're telling me the Titans are going to make a trade for Aaron Rodgers, and then they're going to give away a first-round pick in next year's draft to get Aaron Rodgers, and then they're going to turn around and they're going to get a third-round pick in next year's draft from the Jets in exchange for Tannehill, fine. I'm okay with that. But I'm not getting rid of Ryan Tannehill just so the Jets can reunite him with Todd Downing. Now, I think the Todd Downing thing is more about Derek Carr. Because I think what the Jets have decided is we want Rodgers, and if we don't get Rodgers, we want Carr. So how do we get Rodgers? Well, maybe Nathaniel Hackett will help us out because he and Rodgers go back to Green Bay. Okay, let's hire him. Now, if we don't get Rodgers, we want Carr. Carr's a straight free agent. How do we go get Derek Carr? Well, Jason Fitz has told us, and we all know Fitz is a huge diehard Raiders fan. Fitz has told us that Derek Carr and Todd Downing were exceptionally close with each other when they were in Oakland. And I think Tannehill liked Downing fine, but I don't think Downing and Tannehill were super close, or at least not that anybody that I've talked to has brought up. So I think the Downing move is more about Derek Carr than I think it is about Ryan Tannehill. But this idea of Tannehill to the Jets, that's great if you tell me who the Titans quarterback is going to be on the other side. And I'll even say this because I think a young guy is always kind of the wild card in all of this. The one day you wake up and you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is the starting quarterback of the 49ers, and by the end of the day, you go to bed and the 49ers have dealt 3 first-round picks to move up to the number 3 pick to be able to take a quarterback. And you're like, wait a minute, I guess Jimmy's not their guy. Even if the Titans go with a young guy in this year's class, that doesn't mean they have to get rid of Tannehill. In fact, I would prefer to keep Tannehill. You're paying Tannehill $27 million, and you've got the young guy on the bench. And, I mean, this is a young guy that can actually play. Talking about Stroud or Levis or Young as opposed to Malik. Now, it's not good for Malik, but as I have said many times, I have moved off of Malik. You all sometimes have a hard time with that. So unless you're getting Aaron Rodgers, I don't think, or I guess Lamar Jackson, there is no option for me that involves Ryan Tannehill not on the team. I am not trading Ryan Tannehill to get Derek Carr. I am not moving off of Ryan Tannehill to sign Andy Dalton. I'm certainly not moving off of Ryan Tannehill to be bad next year. Because Ryan Tannehill's too good. He's too good to go into the season with no quarterback. He's too good to be doing what Atlanta is doing. What is Atlanta going to do at quarterback this year? I don't know. I'm not going to do what Washington did. Great defensive line, good running game, good receivers, no quarterback. They traded for Carson Wentz. I'm not doing that. So the Jets can have Ryan Tannehill 4th in the pecking order all they want, and they can hire Todd Downing, and people can speculate that the Titans are going to move off of Tannehill and that the Titans are going to move on to somebody else, and the Jets can get Tannehill. But I'm not doing that until I have another option. The other thing that kind of offends me, 4th in the pecking order? Like, really? You want Derek Carr over Tannehill? You want Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback over Ryan Tannehill? I went over this with Derek Carr, and I thought it was great because Coach Shoop was talking about how until he heard me read off the stats about Carr as compared to Tannehill, he thought Carr was a better player. And then I brought up the stats, and it was like, actually, Tannehill might be a better player. If the Jets end up signing Jimmy Garoppolo as opposed to acquiring Ryan Tannehill, then they are stupid. Because Ryan Tannehill is a much better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. Much. Just like how Aaron Rodgers is an A quarterback or Joe Burrow is an A-plus quarterback, Tannehill is a B-level quarterback. Garoppolo is a C, maybe even less than that. San Francisco doesn't even want to think about having him on the team. 4th in the pecking order. I'm a little offended by that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to weigh in, we will get to your phones. 615-737-1025. Plus, do you really want Derek Carr? And if you want Derek Carr, what's that say about you? Preds fans, don't miss tomorrow night's Smashville Live show at Brew House 100 in Bellevue starting at 6 o'clock. See your Predators players up close and personal, plus get autographs and pictures. The player guest tomorrow night will be Juuso Parssinen and Tommy Novak. Is that a change, Ian?
I believe it is a change, yes.
Because I thought it was supposed to be the
Carrier and Lozon?
Yeah, the Jared Stillman fan club yesterday.
Yeah, I guess they changed it on you. Sorry.
Well, I will just say this. If I was getting autographs, I'd much rather get a Parsonen autograph than a Lozon or Carrier autograph. Because I think Parson is going to be here for a while. And Tommy Novak's not bad. Smashville Live brought to you by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, Little Harpeth Beer, and Superbook Sports.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rex Road for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome to Smashville, home of your Nashville Predators. Join us at Bridgestone Arena Tuesday, February 21st for College Night with the University of Alabama as your Nashville Predators take on the Vancouver Canucks. Purchase your College Night tickets today at NashvillePredators.com/College Nights. That's NashvillePredators.com/College Nights for a Preds and Alabama co-branded hats. And don't miss February 28th as your Nashville Predators take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Secure tickets at NashvillePredators.com/tickets. Let's go, Preds!
Curation CBD, a Pick-10 company, offers high-quality, lab-tested CBD products curated for life for both you and your pet.
Hi, I'm Adam Intihar, also known as the Dog Father of Nashville. Curation 600 milligram CBD roll-on really helps me get through my training days. Applying it in the morning and again at night helps me take bites from dogs like Zulu or go on adventures with dogs like Lieutenant Dan. Curation is awesome.
Discover the full range of Curation products online at CurationCompany.com.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
Coach Bob Shoop, as always, joining us on a Tuesday.
Like I said, I've heard nothing but positives about Tim Kelly. I've heard nothing but positives about Charles London. He's the one outsider apparently coming in. Like I said, everybody has a little bit of a different role. There's been a little bit of a shakeup. One of the things that I've learned throughout my career as a coordinator is to be inclusive and to have collaboration in the room. And it keeps coming back to me that those are words that are being used in that building now, from the personnel side of things to the coaching side of things, and now maybe even more specifically on the offensive side of things, this could be a more collaborative type group. And maybe in this particular case, the whole could be greater than the sum of its parts. And a lot of those guys obviously have familiarity and have worked together. And I'm excited to see how this works and give them the benefit of the doubt with regard to it.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Moving isn't fun and can be expensive. With this week's Nashville's Best Deal, save on your next move with Black Tie Moving. Enjoy red carpet treatment along with professional pad wrapping. They will assemble and disassemble your items and save you time. Black Tie delivers a world-class packing service and offers long-distance and local moving options. Right now, get $200 off a half-day move for just $75 or $400 off a full-day move for $150 at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Right before the Super Bowl, sources said Derek Carr informed the Raiders that he would not accept a trade to the New Orleans Saints, and the two teams had essentially worked out the framework of a deal. Could have been done had Derek Carr given his okay, but he wasn't going to accept a trade anywhere. He will no longer be the Raiders quarterback. They will simply move on, get out from under the money, and plot their new path forward with a new quarterback. And then Derek Carr will instantly become the top free agent available. Unlike most free agents who have to wait until mid-March, he could sign now. Among the teams expected to be interested, still the Saints, the Panthers, the Jets, the Titans, and some others.
There you go. That was Ian Rappaport earlier today on Derek Carr, who is now officially a free agent. And the Titans? The Titans are in the mix for Ryan Tannehill. The Titans are in the mix for Derek Carr when they got Ryan Tannehill? Now, I think if I were to ask most people outside of Nashville, who's a better quarterback, Ryan Tannehill or Derek Carr, most people would say Derek Carr. But is that rooted in fact? I went back and I looked at the careers of each guy the last 3 years from 2020 on and from 2022. And we took record completion percentage, quarterback rating, touchdown to interception ratio, yards per attempt, and playoff appearances and playoff wins. And over their careers and over the last 3 years and last season, of those 17 categories, Tannehill is ahead of Derek Carr in 14. Tannehill has a better record than Derek Carr in his career. 78-65. Carr is 63-79. Tannehill has a better record over the last 3 years at 29-16. Carr is 24-24. Tannehill had a better record this year at 6-6. Carr is 6-9. Over the last 3 years, the only stat that Derek Carr is ahead of Ryan Tannehill is yards per attempt, and that is 7.6 per throw ahead of Ryan Tannehill's 7.5. And last season, record, Ryan Tannehill had a better record. Completion percentage, Ryan Tannehill 65.2% to 60.8%. Quarterback rating, Tannehill 94.6% to 86.3%. Touchdown to interception ratio, 2.1 for Tannehill, 1.7 for Carr. And yards per attempt, 7.8 for Tannehill and 7 for Derek Carr. One of those guys had Devontae Adams. It wasn't Ryan Tannehill. One of those guys had an offensive head coach. It wasn't Ryan Tannehill. One of those guys had the rushing champion as his running back. Also not Tannehill. And one of those guys had Darren Waller at tight end. You're right, it wasn't Ryan Tannehill. So Ryan Tannehill had a better season last year than Derek Carr. Ryan Tannehill makes $27 million. With all those teams lining up to want Derek Carr, I guarantee you he signs for more than $27 million. I bet somebody this weekend that Geno Smith will sign a new deal at over $30 million a year. Tannehill is 27. Why would you move off of Tannehill for Derek Carr when over the last 3 years, when last season, and over their careers, Tannehill has statistically been the better quarterback? And what you can't do is you can't say, well, the Raiders were kind of screwed up, and so were the Dolphins. So were the Titans. There were years where Carr had good coaches. There were years where Carr had good players. There were years where Tannehill had Arthur Smith. But I think when you've been in the league for a decade and you've been in that same level that they've both been in, I think it's very easy to take the two quarterbacks and compare them side by side. That's why I get offended when I see the guy from New York say the Jets have Tannehill fourth in the pecking order. He's better than Garoppolo. He's better than Carr. He's not better than Aaron Rodgers, but he's better than the other two guys. And I'm not interested in Derek Carr if I'm moving off of Ryan. I mean, it's stupid. Why would you do that? Oh, why would you do that? 615-737-1025. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Andrew says, would you take a second-round pick for Tannehill? He says, I'm not sure. Let me say this. I would take a second-round pick for Tannehill if I knew who my quarterback was going to be. I'm not just taking a second-round pick for Tannehill just to take a second-round pick for Tannehill. I would take a second-round pick for Tannehill if I knew that I was dealing a second-round pick as part of a package to get an Aaron Rodgers. If I knew I was dealing a second pick to move up from 11 to 6 and draft C.J. Stroud if he's there, which he probably wouldn't be, then I'll trade Ryan Tannehill. But I'm not taking a second-round pick from Ryan Tannehill just because somebody offers me a second-round pick. Who is my quarterback going to be? When I asked Rand Carthon about Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback, and he pled the fifth, what that really said to me, it didn't say to me that Carthon doesn't like Tannehill. What it said to me is that Rand Carthon has an idea. And if the idea doesn't work out, he wants to be able to settle back on Ryan Tannehill. If he wants Aaron Rodgers, he tries to get him, and the Packers say, we're not interested, or the Jets come in with a better offer, or whatever, he wants to be able to go back to Tannehill and say, yeah, I had to evaluate, and I've evaluated, and you're my guy. But there's a reason why San Francisco, when they were asked about Jimmy, they said, no, we're moving on. Because they know that there's no way that they're not. And for the Titans, they are still kind of we'll see what's out there that's better, but we're not moving off of Tannehill for nothing. And you still have to ask yourself, who is your quarterback? Who is your quarterback? Texter says, Ryan Tannehill would never go play for Todd Downing again. I see a text like that, and I wonder, is this somebody who knows something? Who knows that Tannehill wouldn't play for Todd Downing again? Or is this just some Johnny sitting there, on the couch, tweeting into the shows, I would never play for Todd Downing again? What do you think, Ian? Do you think they know
Probably
that Tannehill
not.
would never play?
No, I don't think, based on what we could tell, I'm not sure Tannehill has that bad feelings towards Downing.
I mean, I don't know, but if somebody knows that Tannehill's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it, but the guy's kind of a tool. Whatever it may be on Downing.
I suppose it's possible. Yeah.
I mean, Downing is a bozo. So.
Well, it's so tricky. Like the plan during the week, how much input did he have? It's obvious like he didn't have a great feel of in-game play calling.
Well, I know the
right?
owners of these teams listen to these shows, and the general managers do, and the coaches do, and, it's just part of the gig. But I do wonder if, ever somebody actually texts into the show that, knows. And that's when I see, Tannehill would never play for Downing again. I'm like, do you know that? Or are you texting that in as,
just based
if I was
on his
Tannehill,
performance,
I wouldn't play for that bozo again? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Texter says the Jets could move Zach Wilson in a pick for Tannehill. It better be the 13th overall pick because Zach Wilson's got no value to me. Again, I'm asking you, who is going to be the quarterback of the Titans? And Zach Wilson is not an answer because he's not a starting quarterback. So that one's out. Texter says, as an Arizona Cardinal fan, I would take Jimmy G or Baker Mayfield over Kyler Murray. Let me say this about Kyler Murray. And it looks like Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, is going to be the head coach there. I don't have much faith in Kyler, but I think he has the exact same skill set and ability as Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts just has a better attitude and is a better leader. But I think their arm is similar. Kyler's probably got more of a rocket and might be a little bit more accurate. But I think Jalen is smarter with the football. I think that they're both good runners. Again, Kyler may be more naturally gifted running, but I think Jalen is, better as far as vision is concerned.
And he has the size advantage over Kyler for a
runner.
runner.
Aren't they kind of similar?
You think so?
In size?
I thought Jalen was bigger.
I mean, Kyler's
kind of small, right?
Well, they say Kyler's 5'10", but I stood next to Kyler Murray last week, and I can tell you that Kyler Murray's not.
I mean, Hurts is no Josh Allen, as far as stature and stuff, but I think he's bigger than Kyler.
What do you think? I bet he's 6 foot?
Jalen Hurts? Yeah, I'd say 6'1", maybe.
6'1"?
Yeah.
6'1", 223. So you're right. He does have the size advantage on Kyler. Which is crazy because nobody would have ever thought Jalen with the number 1 pick. But Kyler, it was, number 1 pick.
Well, when it comes to quarterbacks, I think what we've come to find out over the past couple of years, some of these GMs and some of these scouts, they really love the measurables on quarterbacks more so sometimes than you can the immeasurables. And so sometimes they fall in love with these traits, and there's just nothing you can do. They just love quarterback traits.
Will Levis, number 1 overall, just because of those traits. Trevor Maddich will join us next, ESPN college football analyst. We'll get his thoughts on the Derek Carr drama and the Titans and what they should do at quarterback. And do any of these 3 quarterbacks, or even 4 if we want to count Anthony Richardson, do they have anything in common with the elite quarterbacks when they came out? Trevor Maddich will join us next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
When you want all the...
Going in and the score. Blast the score. He risks one, they score.
And don't forget the...
Oh, what a stop. Sliding across to make the save. Backhander, nice stop.
When all you want is... Smashville. We have you covered. Hear every Predators game right here. We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics. If you have painful joints, arthroscopic surgery may be the cure to solve your pain. Arthroscopic surgery is minimally invasive and provides faster recovery time. The experienced doctors at Houston Clinic Orthopedics may be able to get you feeling back to normal with an arthroscopic surgery of your knee, shoulder, hip, elbow, wrist, or ankle. Each of the 10 locations in Middle Tennessee has an arthroscopic surgeon that can determine if this type of surgery is the best option for you. Visit tn.houston.com to learn more and to book an appointment. Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters.
If you missed the latest from Robbie and Rex Road.
First of all, that happens one time and you get a free touchdown in the red zone. That's situational football wins games and loses games, you know? I mean, that's where the bread is buttered. I said the butt is breaded.
Same thing.
6 a.m. hour. Then it happens twice. That's getting schooled by Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. By the way, quick aside on that, I noticed that Andy Reid mentioned Bieniemy a lot last night, and I don't know if you saw the Jay Glazer report about Andy Reid pondering retirement after this. But he had a report yesterday about him pondering retirement. And in my head, I'm like, is Eric Bieniemy about to just become the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs today? I'm just throwing it out there. It would be a pretty good time, pretty good way to go out for Andy Reid on top like that. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Either way, I bet he had a couple good cheeseburgers last night.
Yes.
You could tell.
I would think so.
Cheeseburger time for him.
After Terry Bradshaw. Make sure to mention that.
Yeah, just make sure you...
Come here, big guy. Come on over here.
Waddle on over here, Andy.
Let me get a big squeeze of that belly. Come on.
But no, a great game last night. As far as my thoughts on the call, you know, I've seen plays like that called holding before. I agree with you. Like, I didn't love the call. You go back and watch it. Does he grab part of the jersey? I mean, yeah. Does it really impede him? That's the question. Like, did he really get impeded by it? I don't know. I don't really think he did. The ball landed in the corner of the end zone, and Juju Smith-Schuster is at the beginning of the end zone when the ball hits the ground. Was he impeded that much? I don't think so. Like, I don't think he was impeded that much.
Robbie and Rex Road, weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, TJ Anderson here. With real estate listings, you have to read between the lines. Like waterfront property, more like a mosquito farm. Pride of ownership, they're really proud of the DIY job they did. Seller says sell. Really? I thought they just put it on the market for fun. My team at TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty is ready to help both home buyers and sellers decode the market. Oh, and if it says don't let this one pass you by, it's probably on wheels. Google TJ Anderson Homes, read our reviews, and see why we are referred for a reason. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, 615-432-2919.
TSU basketball lives on 102.1 The Ville. Join Coach Brian Penny Collins and the Tigers for every great moment in the OVC. On your home for TSU basketball, 102.1 The Ville and the Ville app.
Hey, this is Pekka Rinne. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Derek Carr is officially a free agent. He is the belle of the ball. Everybody is lining up to sign Derek Carr because all these teams don't have quarterbacks. And just so you know, all of you out there that think that Sam Darnold's no good or think that Tyler Huntley's no good or Geno Smith's no good, there's a pretty good chance those guys are going to be starting at quarterback next season. Now, I'm actually, Gentry Estes at the Tennessean watched a bunch of condensed games, and he was talking about the Panthers in the second half of the season, and he's like, Sam Darnold actually played really well. And I went back and I watched some of that. He's not wrong. But that's why all these teams want Derek Carr. Trevor Maddich joins us now in the program, ESPN college football analyst. Trevor, let's start with this, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Let's start with this. Ian Rappaport put the Titans on the list of teams that would be interested in Derek Carr. But when I ran the numbers over their careers over the last 3 years and even last season, Ryan Tannehill is clearly the superior quarterback. Do you think the Titans should be interested in Derek Carr?
No, I think they should stay with Tannehill and then bring in his possible replacement
in this draft or the next, and leave it at that. I mean, Carr has thrown for a lot of yards. I mean, he's the Raiders' leading passer, all-time leading passer, which is crazy when you think about it. But they were perfectly willing to let him go for nothing. For nothing. No compensation whatsoever. They tried to get a trade, couldn't get it worked out, and next thing you know, he's a free agent. And so it makes you wonder, what about Derek Carr makes the Raiders completely cut him loose, right? And then you look at what he's able to accomplish and what he's able to win there. He's racked up a lot of yards, but what has he really won? And I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he's a very good quarterback, and in the right system, he can be very effective. At the same time, if I'm the Titans, I look at the comparison between him and Tannehill and think, okay, well, gee, I mean, if I'm bringing in Carr, I've got to compete with other teams that don't have a Ryan Tannehill on their roster that are desperate for a guy like Carr to come in and save their quarterback room. And I've got to outbid them for Carr and give him a longer-term contract when I've already got Tannehill here, who already knows the system, knows the players, knows everything going on. We know him. He's the devil we know. I just don't see enough upside to Carr, given what he would cost, to bring him in to replace Tannehill.
Over the last 4 Super Bowls, Hall of Fame quarterbacks have won 3 of them. I do not think Matthew Stafford is headed for the Hall of Fame, but I think Mahomes and Brady we can agree on. The 2 that have won over that 4-year period are both headed to the Hall of Fame. And over the last 10 years, 7 of the quarterbacks, if we don't count Russell Wilson, 7 of the quarterbacks are headed to the Hall of Fame. Manning, Brady, Mahomes, those guys. It makes it obvious to me that if you have an elite quarterback, you've got a 75% chance of winning the Super Bowl, or a elite quarterback wins the Super Bowl 75% of the chance, 75% of the time. If you're one of the other teams that doesn't, you've got collectively a 25% chance to do it. I think there are 4 elite guys in the game today right now: Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers. Trevor, do you think anybody else is in that group? And if so, do you think that changes your opinion on how to build teams, given that you have to have an elite quarterback to give yourself a 75% chance?
You know, I would actually cut that list down. I would take Josh Allen out of that list right now. Allen, Buffalo Bills quarterback, makes throws that makes announcers say in real time as they're calling the game on television, what an amazing quarterback he is. What a throw. No one can make that throw. And that's fair on those throws he does. But there are games when he utterly disappears. There are games when he's just terrible. And he will be a contributing factor to the Bills losing to really bad teams. So, yeah, he's got the potential to be a great quarterback, but I wouldn't put Josh Allen in that group with Mahomes and those other guys. I'd lessen the list. Now, that puts you with everybody else out there, right?
You wouldn't include Josh Allen, and Trevor, I'm sorry to cut you off. You wouldn't include Josh Allen after that game that he had with Mahomes last year in the playoffs?
No, because what about the game he had against Miami this year in the playoffs? You know, what about he played all right, but I mean, what about the game that he lost to Cincinnati? Mm-hmm. You know, that's more accurate. You know, a couple of years ago, he goes down and loses to Jacksonville. I think it was a couple of years ago. Jacksonville was just terrible. And it was either this year, earlier in the year, or last year. Anyway, he went down there and just laid an egg, just a massive egg against a Jacksonville team that shouldn't have been close to Buffalo. So he's too inconsistent to me to put him in there. But what you're saying in principle is right, Jared. I'm not really disagreeing with you here. I'm just saying that when you talk about an elite quarterback, there's very few of them. I mean, there's 32 starting NFL jobs, but there are not 32 starting NFL quarterbacks in the world that are ready to take those jobs right now. And so, you know, how you build a team, though, is the question. You do need an elite quarterback in order to make multiple Super Bowl runs. You need that. The question is, do you need to get that elite quarterback in the top half of the first round, or can you get him in the back half of the first round, or not in the first round at all? And when you look at the players that you mentioned that have won the Super Bowl, yeah, those guys are, you know, great players, possible future Hall of Famers, et cetera. But if you go back and look at the last dozen or so Super Bowls, and we're talking starters now, not winners, almost half of those starters if you count the Brady's of the world only once. So Brady gets in there, a whole bunch of times, and we're only counting him once as a 6th-round draft choice. You got about a 50-50 chance of having a quarterback start for you in the Super Bowl if you take him in the first half of the first round, or if you take him outside of the first half of the first round. And if you look at the championship games this year, in the AFC championship games, you've got Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes taken very, very high. In the NFC, you've got Jalen Hurts, who's second rounder, right? And then the 49ers, who got to that point without their high pick, Trey Lance, because he was injured all year. And so there's 4 teams. Only 2 of them had quarterbacks taken in the first round, top half of the first round. Now, there's other mathematical, anomalies to that. I mean, there's a lot more quarterbacks taken outside the first round than there are in the first round, et cetera. But what I'm saying is that you need an elite quarterback. The question is, do you have to trade up to get them? Because a lot of those guys that everybody thought was going to be their guy turned out not to be.
Well, to your point with that, Trevor Maddich is our guest. I mean, for every Joe Burrow who was first overall, there's a Baker Mayfield, there's a Jared Goff, there's you name it. I mean, these are the 5 guys right now, and if I forget anybody, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I think Mahomes is going to the Hall of Fame. I think Rodgers is going to the Hall of Fame. I think Burrow is probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think he's the next John Elway. So I think Burrow's going to end up there. And I think Lamar Jackson, of all the active quarterbacks, I guess Lamar, maybe Russell, as far as ultimately end up in the Hall of Fame. Well, Mahomes was 10th. He wasn't first overall. Aaron was 24th. Lamar was 32nd. Russell was a 3rd-round pick. I actually kind of agree with you, Trevor.
Yep, and that's the thing. You've got to hit on those guys, but at the same time, if you miss on your 2nd or 3rd round quarterback or a trade, you're a whole lot less likely to set your team back 5 years, like Green Bay may have done by what I think is missing on Jordan Love. They moved up to take him as Rodgers' replacement, and so far he hasn't shown that he can play at all. And so you have to have that elite quarterback. But think about the teams that have gotten to the Super Bowl. Some have won, some haven't. And who took their quarterback up high? And people look at, Mahomes, Burrow. You're looking at guys that you mentioned that are, the guys that you move up for, guys that you take high, and they worked out. But for everyone that works out, a whole bunch of others don't work out that were taken just that high. And so it's a real roll of the dice a lot of times when it comes to these quarterbacks. And you look at the ones this year that are up. I think there's only one of the top 4 quarterbacks that are talking about that are available in the draft this year that I think, I feel confident in his NFL career, and that is C.J. Stroud of Ohio State. Bryce Young, I would say yes, but I'm a little worried about his durability. If he's able to handle the physical pounding, then Bryce Young, absolutely I have confidence in. But nobody else of that top 4, kid out of Florida, kid out of Kentucky, do I have confidence in. Somebody's going to have confidence and take those guys high. I have a lot more confidence in Hendon Hooker of Tennessee, possibly a 2nd rounder, right, to be an outstanding player in the NFL. So where do you get the guy? And really it comes down to scouting and evaluation, and you'd better be right.
Trevor Maddich is our guest. Trevor, along those lines, I have a take. I have something that was told to me at the Super Bowl that by somebody I trust. In fact, I'm going to text you who it was off the air because I can't say who it was publicly. I'm going to text you who it was that said this to me, and I think you're going to think it's crazy, and it's about the draft and the quarterbacks, and we'll get to that. Plus, what did you see, Trevor? What did you see from Patrick Mahomes as a college player that maybe either made you think he was going to be this or not think that? We'll get to that coming up next. Trevor Maddich is with us, ESPN college football analyst here, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Your home for MTSU basketball is 94.9 The Fan.
3 ball, yes sir!
All the big shots and moments live here. MTSU basketball is on a station built for you. 94.9 The Fan.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter, but it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hey Nashville, it's Chef Phillip at Bar Lines at the Omni Hotel. Come try our new hot dog burn ends. Nathan's all beef hot dogs smoked over pecan wood, tossed in honey sriracha barbecue, topped with a cool crema, crisp spring onions. One of my favorites.
Attending an event downtown? Dine at Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
If you missed the latest from Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace,
they are so sought after that you just got to hold on to it no matter what's going on in the relationship.
Keep away.
Exactly. That's just the most asinine thing that I've ever heard. It truly is. I'm thinking about it from a logical standpoint. Like, I think Vrabel is a good coach. I know everybody's screaming he's a great coach. Well, if he's a great coach, what is Bill Belichick? What is Andy Reid? What is Doug Peterson? What are these guys that have won Super Bowls? John Harbaugh. What are these guys considered as? Vrabel to me is a damn good coach. He's a good coach. But he has a .585 winning percentage. He's 2-3 in the playoffs. The last portion of this past season was a debacle by any measurement. It was a complete debacle. Now, I don't blame that all on him.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Adult education in Tennessee. It's more than just a diploma. It's a path to a better life. It's a way to help you communicate more effectively. From high school equivalency classes and testing to English as a second language and college prep courses, there's no shortage of opportunities to enhance the lives of you and your family. Adult education in Tennessee. It's more than just a diploma. Go to tnworkready.com to unlock your maximum potential.
Brought to you by Tennessee Adult Education, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Pennzoil Platinum can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $37.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
They're insightful.
To me, you got a left guard situation you got to figure out.
Credible.
I trust this guy more than this guy.
But sometimes they just argue.
Why do you like the NFL playoffs? Those teams lose.
I don't want college football to be the NFL.
When they get...
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Coach Reid had a great game plan. I knew it going in, and he got everybody involved. And I said it before the season, it's going to be everybody, except it's going to be Kelsey too. So it's going to be everybody and Kelsey that are going to make plays, and you saw that today.
How about Coach Reid? It seemed like when you scored, people were walking in the end zone. A lot of that is a sign of tactical advantage with the play calling and what was coming out, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, we have the best coaches in the league, and I understand how lucky I am whenever you get those wide open touchdowns against one of the best defenses in the league. And so they did a great job scheming. Coach Reid obviously is the best offensive coach probably of all time, and then you have other coaches that have learned under him, and they put their blueprint in the game plan. And so I'm so excited, man. I can't wait to celebrate these young guys, man, and get to experience that with them.
There you go. That was Patrick Mahomes on ESPN after the Super Bowl. And as I said, I would give the MVP trophy to Andy Reid for the performance that he had, not just in the game, which was fabulous, but also, finding a Kadarius Toney and all the things that they did throughout the course of the year. But the reason what has made Andy Reid an all-time great is the fact that he found Patrick Mahomes. He traded up to take Patrick Mahomes. He nurtured Patrick Mahomes, and he coaches Patrick Mahomes. And Trevor Maddich is with us, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, what do you remember of Mahomes in college? And what did you think about him as an NFL player when all of that went down, so that we can think about this as we look to try to find the next Patrick Mahomes as the draft process kind of comes up next year?
Well, frankly, I was surprised that the Chiefs moved up to take him. You know, they took him with the 10th pick. And by the way, when we talk about guys that work out and guys that don't, the Chiefs moved up to take Mahomes at number 10. Well, above him, the Bears moved up to take Mitchell Trubisky at number 2. And they were fired up about that pick. It was awesome, right? Well, that's a 50%, hit rate on those two quarterbacks. And it works out that way a lot. Mahomes in college had tremendous swagger, just great swagger, threw for a ton of yards, got better every year he played, threw for more yards, more accuracy, things like that. But there were things that really were eye-opening to me based on his college game as to why the Chiefs would take him so high. You know, he was quite inconsistent. He would freelance a lot. He would not anticipate very well. He wasn't a great anticipatory thrower in college, but he was able to move around and buy time and then zing that ball down the field. And he had a laser for an arm, but he didn't have a whole lot of touch. But, boy, could he get it downfield. Now, these are all things that in college are great, but in the NFL will not lead you to enough consistency to be able to win consistently unless you're able to overcome them and grow past them. And so what Andy Reid saw was all those physical traits. The swagger, the leadership, the strong arm, the movement ability, the ability to be relatively accurate from different deliveries with his arm angle, which means that when he's pressured, he can divorce his upper body from his lower body and still deliver an accurate pass, right? But he needed a lot of work. And so I think that's the lesson here, that when Andy Reid brought him in, he knew two things. One is that he would have to groom him to be able to maximize his physical abilities and minimize some of his weaknesses. And part of that is developing an offensive system that is something that would do the same thing, maximize his abilities and minimize some of his weaknesses. And so Andy Reid did a phenomenal job at merging NFL concepts where you read defenses and there's a lot of mental gymnastics quarterbacks have to do with the air raid offense that Mahomes played at Texas Tech. The air raid is a pretty simple offense to learn, because basically you look at where there's open grass and you throw to the receiver there. It's kind of simple, once you get the basic philosophy of it. And so if you're too simple in the NFL, defenses will shut you right down. So Reid had to do a hybrid of that. But he figured that he could take what Mahomes did well in college and turn that into an entire offense, and he was able to do it. And that's really the lesson, that, no college quarterback, or very few anyway, are really perfect. But what you've got to do is maximize what you're asking them to do so they can do it really well. I was surprised because of his weaknesses that they took him that high. But Reid, I think in the conversations with him, especially in the pre-draft process, fully believed that he could train Mahomes beyond that stuff. And every coach thinks that, but Reid was able to actually do it.
Trevor Maddich is with us. So I talked to somebody who's got some serious juice in the NFL, who talks to executives in the league at the Super Bowl. And I made some kind of comment like, what do you think about Will Levis? All this talk about Will Levis. And he looked at me straight in the eye, Trevor, and he said, I think there's a pretty good chance he's going number 1. And I was like, what do you mean? He was terrible at Kentucky this past year. He's like, yeah, but just from what I've heard, I think there's a pretty good chance Will Levis is going number 1. What do you make of that, Trev?
Yeah, Mel Kiper thinks that too. Mel Kiper has Will Levis as the number 1 quarterback on his board right now. And part of the reason is just those physical traits. We talked about the ones that Mahomes has, right? Well, Levis is he's 6'3". He's about 230 pounds. He's yoked. I mean, he's built like the modern quarterback that you want to be able to throw and run. And when you look at what Jalen Hurts was able to do this year, what Mahomes is able to do with his mobility, Will Levis should be able to do all those things. I'm a little concerned about him. I mean, he had 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions this year, and he only completed 65% of his passes. I'm a little worried about that for a guy that you expect to go number one. But if you are a coach who thinks you can train a guy past some of his limitations, then Levis is the canvas that you can put those colors on and create what you want to be. But you have to believe that he can grow that way. That's what made Patrick Mahomes. He was able to grow with that coaching into the system that was designed just for him. You look at Jordan Love in Green Bay, I haven't seen him grow. Mitchell Trubisky did not grow. And really with Trubisky, if you want to compare that to Mahomes, they were in the same draft. Mahomes at number 10 and Trubisky at number 2 above him. The thing about Trubisky is that when in college at North Carolina, when he was front running, he would light people up. But when his team was getting hit in the mouth and he was getting hit in the mouth and he needed to rise up and carry the team, he tended to kind of disappear. So I'm not saying he's soft or anything. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that teams needed to have believed in him from an interview standpoint more than what they see on tape. And same way with Will Levis. Will Levis has the physical abilities to do a lot of stuff. But because, like you mentioned, Jared, he did not have the year this year I thought he would. A lot of people thought he would, even though he didn't have the team around him that he did the year before. He still didn't elevate the team the way I thought he should have been able to elevate the team that he did have around him in 2022. I think the interview process for him is going to be massive to find out why that was. Because guys with tremendous physical ability, that's mildly interesting. I want to know who I can take and to the next level. And that means who is he as a person. And Mahomes as a person was a guy you could take to the next level. Is Will Levis? I don't know. But I'm not totally in love with Will Levis's ability as a quarterback right now, so it's got to be that I can take him to the next level, or I'm not going to take that risk.
Last one for you. Trevor Matich is our guest, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. I get a lot of questions about Hendon Hooker. As I see more of the college game make its way to the NFL, what kind of pro do you think Hendon Hooker will be, and how do you think his injury will affect him long term?
ACL should not affect him at all. It depends on if there's other damage within that knee that would, cause there to be other things that would deteriorate over the course of time. And so his medical evaluations are going to be really important. But just last year, he threw, 27 or 28 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. I mean, he's shown the ability to be very accurate, especially down the field. Great touch at throwing the deep pass, but also all the stuff he threw underneath. He showed great maturity. He grew from 2021 to 2022 tremendously as he learned the offense. And I think that Hooker, because of that knee, is going to drop in the draft. I think there are people that will take him off the board because they're not sure. There are people that will take him off the board because they won't be able to count on him at all for 2023. Because by the time he's really ready to start practicing at a high level, the season will already be underway probably, or at least they'll be well into training camp. He just won't be ready to play yet. So you really got to draft Hooker from anticipation of 2024. But I think just like Jeffrey Simmons dropped when he was injured at Mississippi State, and his injury was just fine, and he's been phenomenal for the Titans. I think Hooker in the same way, if they're happy with that knee, he's a guy that could turn out to be one of the top 2 quarterbacks in this draft. And he won't be in the first round most likely because of that knee. So I think Hooker's ability to throw the ball deep and his leadership and maturity give him a combination that I think are very intriguing and would be a bargain outside the first round.
Trevor Matich, ESPN college football analyst, joining us as always, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Trevor, great stuff. We will talk next week as we turn our attention to the Combine.
Thanks, Jared.
Yep, Trevor Matich, as always. And I am not going to poo-poo that Hendon Hooker take. I think one of the more fascinating things about this draft, not just because we're in Tennessee and not just because the Titans need a quarterback, but I think one of the more fascinating elements is what is going to happen with Hendon Hooker and what kind of player. And I said this to somebody at a Super Bowl party that I was at, and I said, look, I said, my question with Hendon Hooker and with Josh Heupel and the future of Tennessee football is, was it that Heupel had the great quarterback, or was it the scheme that made the quarterback great? And my friend said, it was a little bit of both. Well, okay, but Sarah, which one? Because that is important. The Predators got beat last night by a team at home that they had no business losing to. And why I think they are now in a spot where they've got to do something. They got to give us something. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Stuck at work without a radio?
Wait a minute. Disastrous.
I hate that.
It's got to be there.
That's okay. Download the Game Nashville app or go to theGameNashville.com and listen live. We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
This is the Preds Report. Presented by Newton Nissan. All the best car deals in Smashville start at Newton Nissan. Visit them at Newton Nissan of Gallatin or Newton Nissan South in Shelbyville.
The Nashville Predators hosted the Arizona Coyotes Monday night at Bridgestone Arena after their 2-1 victory over Philadelphia on Saturday. Predators fell behind 1-0. Nick Schmaltz had a goal late in the first period. Roman Josi tied it up with a power play score early in the second, and then Nashville came on to take the lead. Now passed out right circle, and the shot and the score! Colton Sissons put it away! Colton Sissons picks up that score for Nashville, his 8th of the year. That was assisted by Trenton and Janot, but that would be it for the Predators scoring. Now they play host to the Boston Bruins here on Thursday night at Bridgestone Arena. Pre-game show at 6, the game at 7. This is Pete Weber reporting.
That was the Preds Report on Nashville's Rock Station, 102.9 The Buzz.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Now, your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Nashville Predators dropped their game versus Arizona last night by a final of 4-2. Head coach John Hines spoke about the loss after the game.
Well, it's a tough loss. It's it's disappointing. I thought we had a couple breakdowns, where they wound up scoring, but I thought from our opportunity offensively, I thought we had good looks, and unfortunately tonight the puck didn't go in, and obviously you needed 3 or 4 to win tonight, and we didn't get it.
The Preds currently sit 5 points back of a playoff spot. They are back in action on Thursday when they host Boston. The search for a next head coach is finally over for two NFL teams. The Indianapolis Colts officially announced Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen as their head coach, while the Arizona Cardinals hired Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. The Tennessee Titans officially named Green Bay executive Chad Brinker as their new assistant general manager, and the Las Vegas Raiders have officially released quarterback Derek Carr, making him a free agent. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 106.3.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The puck picked up, sent off the boards, downside for Keller. Keller back for Christian Fisher. Fisher at the empty net, he scores. And the Coyotes take a 4-2 lead with just under 53 seconds remaining.
Well, it's a tough loss. It's it's disappointing. I thought we had a couple breakdowns, where they wound up scoring, but I thought from our opportunity offensively, I thought we had good looks, and unfortunately tonight the puck didn't go in, and obviously you needed 3 or 4 to win tonight, and we didn't get it.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 1025, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. I did not like that one bit last night. The Predators losing to the horrendously terrible Arizona Coyotes, who have not won a road game since the end of November. The last time they won a road game, the Tennessee Titans were 7-3. They had just beaten the Green Bay Packers, and John Robinson was still the general manager of their team. That's how bad it is. Now, I heard Willie today on the Midday Show say, well, Arizona had to win one eventually on the road, and he's not wrong. But it's bad when it's your team. When your team has promised you that they're going to compete, and all season long they have not found a way to compete. And they've been saying, we have time, we feel good, we like our team, we have time, we'll see. And then you lose to that Arizona team. That team was terrible. That was like an expansion team that was out there last night. When they did the starting lineups, and I promised and I followed through that I was going to go to the game, and I was going to sit in my seats, and I was going to watch the game, and no socializing. And I do a lot of socializing. And I was going to sit there and watch the game. I sat there during the starting lineups, and I realized I don't know anybody on this team. Talking about Arizona. They have a bunch of nobodies. They are tanking. They are scratching their star defenseman because they're looking to trade them ahead of the deadline. And the Predators still lost. When the Predators have said, well, every game's important now because they've blown too many of them already, and they still lost. And that's not what they were promising us in May. What they were telling us in May, after the fan base was fed up with losing in the first round of the playoffs and last year not being competitive and getting swept by Colorado, they promised us in May they were going to get this thing right and they were going to compete. And this was David Poile talking about that after the end of last season.
We obviously didn't get there this year. The season, the playoff series shows we still have a ways to go to reach our ultimate goal. And as of last Tuesday, our Hockey Ops group has begun the process of determining what we need to do and what we can do to get better and closer to our goal. We took some steps forward this year, but by no means are we satisfied or happy with the results. We want more, and our fans deserve more.
Hey, we want more, and the fans deserve more. And right now, we're getting less. Now, they promised. We promised we'll be able to compete. John Hines, I asked him. I said to John Hines, because I was saying, hey, it's time to blow it up. And they were saying, no. As you heard David right there, we've been working since 2. We're going to figure it out. We're going to find a way to compete. And I asked John Hines, do you think you're a couple of pieces? And we didn't know it at the time, a Ryan McDonough and a Nino Niederreiter. Are you a couple of pieces away from being able to compete with the big, bad Colorado Avalanche?
Do you think that those core players are good enough in order to compete, to bridge the gap with the Colorado or other teams in the Western Conference?
I think they are, Jared, in the sense that, you have to – basically what happens is I think when you look at the level that they played this year, like there was a transition. I think when you look at – I think they've shown they have a lot of game left in the sense that, I think that they're all in great shape. I think that they're playing the game and driving at a high level. I felt like what can help – how can you support them? If you really look at the team this year, whether you put Johansson or Granlund with Duchesne and Forsberg, like that was a top line all year long. No, the issue was if whichever one of those two centers wasn't with those two wingers, we didn't have enough punch in that quote unquote second line spot. So let's say Phil's back and you had Granlund, Forsberg, and Duchesne. How can we support? Can we do that internally, or do we have to do it externally to help a guy like Johansson or Granlund in that second line center spot that gives us more punch, but also brings some skill sets that helps those guys?
And so that was yes, and they went out and got Nino Niederreiter. So they promised, and they're not close. In fact, they're worse than they were last year. So you got to do one or two things, and you don't want to do either. I know they don't want to do either. You either have to admit that we were right and you were wrong, that this team is not capable of a couple of Band-Aids and a couple of cough drops and some ice from being healed enough to compete in this league, or you have to fire the coach. It has to be one or the other. Either you can wave the white flag and tell us, look, we thought we had a team that was going to compete. I know, Jared, you never thought that. I know everybody in the Adam Vingan poll at the end of last season was skeptical. I know you all saw the Colorado series and you're tired of losing in the first round every year in a row that you've done since before the 2018 NFL draft. I know you're tired of this. So, more importantly, you guys said you didn't want it and you were right and we were wrong. Now, I don't think they'll ever just come out and say that they were wrong and we were right, but that is what waving the white flag, saying, all right, it's time to blow this thing up. It's time to blow it up. It's time not to be good. It's time to get some picks. It's time to build the farm system. It's time to finally find the big boy forward. It's time to start talking about trading UC Soros. It's time for that. And I know they don't want to do it. But if you promised, and this is the best you got, then either you got to do that or you have to fire the coach. And you have to say, Duchesne's not playing as well as I think he's capable of playing. And Forsberg wasn't playing as well as I think he's capable of playing. And all these guys that, Granlund and Niederreiter and guys that could play better, we're going to bring a new coach in here, a new voice, and we're going to flip the room upside down, which is a go-to move in the NHL. You got to do one or the other. If you fire the coach, then you are telling me we think we have the players to win. That's fine. Again, I don't agree with that, but if you fire the coach, then you're telling me I just think a change of direction is what we need, and I still believe in the players we have. If you don't fire the coach, then you have to change the players because you can't do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And what's really going to happen, and I already see it coming, is what's going to happen is they're going to say it's not the coach's fault, so we can't blame him. And it's not the players' fault. They just need to play better. That's it. Just play a little better. Even though we remember the Dallas series in 2019, we remember not even making it to the real playoffs in the 2020 bubble. We remember the 6-game series with Carolina, and we remember getting smacked in 4 games against the Colorado Avalanche. And we know this team, if they keep losing to the Arizona Coyotes, isn't going to make the playoffs. And even if they do make the playoffs, they have no chance of winning a playoff series. We all know that. We knew that last year. They told us, no, we promise. They were wrong, and we were right. And that's fine. But now they either have to admit it or they have to fire the coach. And I am okay with either option. But you're going to have to do one or the other. They're not going to do either, by the way. But I said this after they lost to Colorado. And I felt how dead the building was at Bridgestone Arena that night. And I said they don't have a choice but to fire John Hines and David Poyle. I mean, they can do whatever they want. But I'm telling you, as far as continuing to keep their fans interested in their team, continuing to build up on what they really, really accomplished by the success they had in 2015, 16, 17, and 18, they have to move on. They have to show the fans that they care. And if they show the fans that they don't care by keeping the same guys in place to do the same things over and over again, eventually the fans are going to check out. And I felt really uncomfortable saying it because I knew that it was going to rub some people the wrong way, but it's the truth. And, man, you go to a game right now. I went last night, and it took everything in me not to bury my head in my phone watching that game. I had to force myself to watch it. That is how bad this team is right now. On top of it, I've never thought about it like this. Ian, this is going to sound crazy.
Okay.
I've never thought about it like this, but some of these games are so hard to watch right now with the way the team is playing. It's hard to do 2 halftimes. And that,
break and then come back and watch again after that? Yeah, the intermissions.
It's like when the team's good, I can live with it. Like when the team's good, I don't even think about it. I've never thought about it until now. But last night when the second period ended, I was like, now I got to wait 18 minutes again for the next period? And what's happening is they're like, we need to play better. No, duh. You've needed to play better for 5 years and you haven't done it. And that's the hard part is, okay, we want you to make changes so that ultimately you will play better, not just we want to sit here and hope that they get better. But you can't lose to the Arizona Coyotes. Not in the position they're in. With everything that you've promised everybody, you cannot lose to that team last night. So either you have to admit you were wrong or you have to fire the coach and see if a new coach can get more out of these players. But you have to do one or the other. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. David Poyle defended John Hines again today on Robbie and Rex Road. But is it really any different than what he said when he fired the last coach? We'll discuss next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, the fun extends beyond the beach because here the arts are alive, the food is al fresco, and the nightlife is electric. So let's forget the cold and find our place in the sun. Let's explore captivating collections at the Salvador Dali Museum and bask in bay views from the St. Pete Pier. Let's fill up on fresh caught cuisine and catch up over cold craft beer on rooftop patios. Day or night, let's shine. Plan your escape at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
Mid-State Sports League spring registration is now open. Adults can register for softball, sand volleyball, soccer, kickball, flag football, and basketball. With the largest leagues in Nashville, there's a league for everyone. For more information about youth or adult sports, visit midstatesports.com.
If you missed the latest from Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
Do you think they make a move, or do you think they believe, okay, we're in a good place, let's just continue to see how that goes? But that also can backfire on them, because if they feel they're going in the right direction and then after the trade deadline and all of a sudden you start dropping games, then people will come back and say, well, why didn't you do something?
Yeah, I think I'd really be surprised if they traded big assets. Some of the prospects we discussed last week when they put out the rankings there, they've got some good young players in the system. They've held on to their first-round pick the last few years. I'd be surprised if they really dive in and try to do much big. I wouldn't rule out, especially if a guy gets banged up here or there and there's a hole on the lower part of the roster, pick up a veteran, something like. I think I could see that, but I don't think anything big is going to happen to add. What would be more likely is if they faltered, right, and they really had the wheels come off in the next 10 games, and they maybe had an opportunity to grab an extra first-round pick or a second-round pick for somebody, or a prospect that they really like, then I think they might have to look at that. They don't want to do that, but that's just how you have to do it if you look at the math, and the math isn't good. The math is reasonable right now. It's not awful. They're on the outside looking in, so they've got to do the climbing, right? But I still think there's a realistic path to get into the playoffs for sure if they play well.
Let's get your thoughts. You got some Predators thoughts lining up. 615-737-1025. Matthew from Jolton texts in and says, if it wasn't for Saros, we'd be in a similar boat as Chicago.
Yep, but they have Saros.
And
Chicago
yes,
doesn't.
And that's fair to say that, okay, well,
and
if
Saros
you didn't
is
have
going
him,
to be here.
him.
He's been here for 3 years. He's going to be here for another few years. He's young.
I think that the point of the fans is, or at least the way that I interpret it is, yes, you have Saros and you feel good about it.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Come out to the 50th Annual National Wild Turkey Federation Convention and Sports Show, February 16th through the 18th at the Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center. Enjoy nightly events, more than 450 vendors, and more. And be sure to join 102.5 The Game this Friday from 2 to 4.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah. And like us on Facebook, too. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's always the same thing, isn't it? When everybody gets frustrated, you can't trade 20 players. You can make a change in management, you can make a change in coaching, and oftentimes teams do that. I for sure think that's always the easiest road, and I'm not prepared to take an easy road. This is a team responsibility. I mean, you cannot, for me, separate the coaches and the players for where we are right now, and everybody has to do a better job. I mean, as you're talking in this interview, I guarantee you that John Hines and his coaching staff are as frustrated as anybody. But I just don't think that is the problem with our hockey club. I think our players have played better, and again, we have nobody that is having a career year with our team. And again, that's the responsibility. The guys got to step up and play better. I fully believe that we have a team that is capable of making the playoffs. I fully believe that we have individual players that have not played their best this year. So, again, I'm a team guy, and it starts with me, and we all have to be better.
Okay, that was David Poyle this morning on Robbie and Retro. His defense of John Hines, who, by the way, unlike his predecessor, Peter Laviolette, John Hines has never won the Western Conference title. He has never won the President's Trophy. He does not have 2 division titles, which Laviolette had in 18 and 19. Laviolette had 5 playoff appearances in 5 years. Hines 3-3 if we count the bubble, which I guess technically we have to. Laviolette was 5-5 in the playoffs. Hines is 0-3. Laviolette was 32-29 in those games, and Hines is 3-11. And Laviolette got fired half of a year after a 100-point season and a division title with a point percentage of .549, and right now the Predators have a current point percentage of .549. So you heard that cut right there where David Poyle's basically saying it's the player's fault. It's not the coach's fault. Can't blame him. It's the player's fault. You heard where he talked about how the easy road would be to fire the coach. He doesn't think the coach is the issue. He says nobody out here is having a career year, and says that he thinks that the team is totally capable of making the playoffs, which is funny because when he fired Peter Laviolette, those were the exact same reasons he gave for firing the coach, just like how he said the day after he fired Laviolette, he didn't want to do it.
I never think it's one person's problem. It's all about that, and I think I've said that clearly in my remarks today that Peter and Kevin deserve a lot of credit for where we are. I would like to have been happy to work with Peter and Kevin for a lot longer. It's not them. It may be a little part of them. It's not them. It's our players. They have to make up their mind to play the way they can. And if a new voice changes that, that's great. In one way, shame on the situation that had to happen. But again, we've seen that in every sport. I've been a little bit of an outlier on that to stay with people, but it's my decision. I just felt it was time, and I want to see us play up to our abilities.
So this morning, it's not the coach's fault. It's the player's fault, so we're not going to fire the coach. 3 years ago, it's not the coach's fault. It's the player's fault. But in order to see if we can get the players to play better, we're going to fire the coach. That doesn't seem very consistent. Then, after he fired Laviolette, which is pointing the finger at one guy, David, like he has been doing all year in blaming the players, put the responsibility on the players.
My message to the players was that I'm responsible for this. I'm responsible for this change, and I take that responsibility. But you as players have to share in the responsibility of what's taken place today. I don't want to be a cliche or to use a cliche, but they often say that you change a coach because you can't, or it doesn't make sense to change 20 players. Our team is way better than it's performed this year, but we have obviously some team concepts, systems that aren't working as effective as they should, and we also have some individuals that are playing way below their level of potential or the expectations that we have. So it's been a hard year. There's a lot of things that are not gone well with our team, and I'm very sorry that we had to make a coaching change. But as I feel today, I thought long and hard about this, and I felt if we have any chance to play better in the second half of the season, to get into the playoffs, to play to our potential, that we need a new voice.
Okay, so David says, I'm putting it on you guys now. I'm firing the coach, but you sharing the responsibility for this. You know how many playoff games they've won since then? 3. And this was 3 years ago. And they've won 3 playoff games. And that counts the one bubble game they won against Arizona. So did that really work? No. Then the big thing, and we hear this all the time, about how it's not John Hines' fault that Matt Duchene's not having a career year like he had last year. It's not John Hines' fault that Ryan Johansson's no good anymore. It's not John Hines' fault that Mikhail Granlund has freaking sucked of late. It's not John Hines' fault that Philip Forsberg is not on the same 40-goal pace he was last year. All these guys had career years. They're not having them this year. That is not the coach's fault. 3 years ago, that's not what David said then.
How responsible do you think a coach is, David, for players or an individual player to be motivated and to perform at his level?
I think that's his job. To do that. And again, with Peter, I think he's a fantastic motivator, and it goes back to what I said in my opening remarks, and it's reflected in our wins and losses. And we've had a lot of guys that have had career years here. This year, for whatever reason, I'm saying it was a very difficult year. I would think if Peter was sitting here, he would say the same thing. I mean, it was not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of having meetings and discussing, confronting individuals. It just wasn't happening.
Oh, we had the team meetings just like we had a team meeting 3 weeks ago. So we're doing the same things. And now we're saying, I can't be mad at the coach. It's not his fault that Matt Duchene's not playing up to it. Why'd you fire the last guy? Well, I mean, that's his job. So now the standard is different. So now the rules are different. And that goes back to basically the final reason that I actually understand with why you would fire a coach if you would do this, that David said he fired Peter 3 years ago, and you tell me if that applies to the current day Predators.
I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. So it just felt that we just were not going to turn the corner. And again, that's one of the visuals that I have when I'm looking at our team. It always starts with your best players, and our best players weren't our best players, haven't been our best players, and they must become our best players.
if we're going to be successful.
Somebody just texted in and said, is this press conference live? That is 3 years ago. That was the reasoning behind why they fired Peter Laviolette, the coach who hung 3 banners in that building in 3 consecutive years. Instead, they played the fire the coach card. They've got you 0 postseason wins since then and a whole wheelbarrow full of excuses. And today on Robbie and Rex Road, can't blame the coach. Right. But we could 3 years ago. 615-737-1025. I see your phones on the Preds. We'll get to them next. 615-737-1025. Plus, David Poyle hints at being a seller at the trade deadline. What can they sell? We'll get to that. Stillman and Company and your phones, 1025-1063 The Game.
This is Tanner Janot, and this is Smashville.
And now down the right wing side, Tanner Janot. His shot, he scored! Tanner Janot with a shot!
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Valentine's Day should be a day to look forward to, unless you have erectile dysfunction. Don't ruin this Valentine's for you and your special someone. It's time to get the solution you want, not depend on the pills. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge University. Are you ready to make Valentine's great again and get the results you want in the bedroom? Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and blood flow analysis, totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
Hey, it's Chase McKay. Make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. There's no fancy computer algorithms. There's no guys across the pond setting the lines for American sports. It's just the best team of odds makers in the biz right there behind the counter at the Superbook in Vegas. Plus, Superbook features some of the best odds, boosts, and promo bets you'll find anywhere. So download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com and start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Hey, it's Jared. Are you looking to move? If so, do yourself a favor and reach out to my friends at TriStar Moving. You can be assured your move will be stress-free because they've got new utility vans to help with pack jobs to separate your high-value or fragile items from the bulk of your furniture, and their movers are carefully picked and highly trained. No one in the game is doing this. TriStar Moving is raising the standard in the moving industry. When you're ready to move, give them a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or online at nationalmoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman referred you for 10% off. That's TriStar Moving.
Hey, you think mortgage rates are still super high? Well, think again. Rates have plummeted to a 5-month low. Hey, Willie Donick here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you've got way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month, or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. So if that applies to any of you, listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto. Wipe out all those cards. Close in about 14 days and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. How does that sound to you? Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. So call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Here's the phone number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Can't get enough Vanderbilt basketball?
Intercepted right all by himself for a one-hand flush.
Your home for the Commodores is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Put it up. It's good. Count it.
Join Coach Jerry Stackhouse and his team on their journey through the SEC.
Pulls a trigger. Yes, from 3.
Check out Vandy Hoops on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Deadline getting closer here, David. I guess would you have to be
in a much worse position mathematically by that day or by that direct time period to seriously consider selling?
That's what keeps me up at night. Right now we're still below the line, not in the playoffs. We're running out of time. Just like this interview, I've been talking about inconsistency and people need to play better, but that hasn't happened on a regular basis. So I do not think we're a buyer. Let's start with that. And I think if things don't change more favorably and get in some kind of winning streak, we certainly could be a seller, but that's not today.
There you go. That was David Poile this morning. I'm glad that's what keeps him up at night. What would keep me up at night is the fact that you haven't won a playoff series in 5 years. That would keep me up at night. Not the, are we going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? I mean, I think last night's game made it pretty obvious, David. When you can't beat the Arizona Coyotes, that team sucks. Now, your team, last week I said your team didn't suck. I said you were just below average and you weren't good. Lose more games to the Arizona Coyotes and it's going to be hard to argue that you don't stink. Now, that being said, he talked about being sellers, which I am rooting for. And I hope they don't win too many games between now and the break because I think they need a dose of reality. But who are they going to sell? In the middle of the 2021 season was when this thing, it felt like at first, hit rock bottom. And Elliot Friedman, who I think is somewhat in the David Poile satchel, Elliot Friedman reported that everybody except for Yossi, Pekka, and Ellis was on the table. And so then there was talk about Forsberg and Ekholm and everybody else that might get traded right there around the 2021 deadline. And I even asked Pekka about that report, and Pekka said, I think that I'd like to see us try to turn it around. And they did, and they ended up making the playoffs, and they didn't sell or anything like that. But since 2021, that was the moment where I decided I would fire David Poile. That has been where if the Preds and I were on the same plane, I separated from them in the middle of 21. And the reason was because there were a lot of decisions that had to be made that were going to lock you into either what you are or what you weren't. And so right now, I went through the entire roster. Let's say the Predators decide to be sellers. Well, Roman Yossi's got a no-movement clause. Can't trade him. Ryan McDonough, 4 years at $675. I don't think anybody's going to trade you for that. The cap, which is real in hockey, the cap, nobody who's a competitor has that kind of space. So you could keep 50% of that salary and maybe try to send it through to another team so that the only acquiring team takes on 25%. But now you got to give something to the third team involved, and I just don't think it's going to be worth it to anybody. So I don't know if anybody would want McDonough. And that was a move that was made after 2021, and you're stuck with him for the next 4 years. Ekholm, 4 years at $625, signed after the 21 season. I don't know if anybody's going to want that. And if you do trade an Ekholm, your defense is going to be so bad, which I'm okay with, but they keep talking about wanting to compete. Fabro, Carrier, Jeannot, and Glass are all restricted free agents at the end of the season. You would get something in return for them, but really nothing of importance. I don't think anybody will trade for Jeremy Lauzon, 4 years, $2 million per. You were not smart enough to be able to trade a second-round pick for him last year, but is what it is. Granlund, 3 years at $5 million. I don't think anybody's going to take that on after Granlund's having such a terrible season. We know you can't trade Duchesne and Johansson because they've been trying to, and Seattle would not even take them for free in the expansion draft. Forsberg has a no-movement clause, which leaves me with basically the 4 options that the Predators have to trade. Nino Niederreiter, Colton Sissons, but I still don't think anybody would take Sissons because he's got 4 years left. Yakov Trenin at 2 years, $175. And then the big one, the break the glass. UC Saros is paid for the next 3 years at $5 million per. You would get a haul for Saros. Now, I heard Caroline bring that up on the midday show. And, can't do that because if you trade Saros, you're not going to be any good. Guess what? You ain't any good right now. That would be the move that you have to make. If you decide that you're a seller, if you decide this team can't win, the same thing that I decided during the 21 season, the thing that all of you decided after last season, you have to trade Saros. You have your goalie in the future. He's at Milwaukee. He's already made his NHL debut. you have to trade Saros. You use the 11th overall pick on Askarov, you have to trade him. If you're really rebuilding. They won't do it. But that would be the move. He's the one guy you can sell. If he's talking about being a seller, he's the one guy. Saros is the one guy where you clear up money, somebody will take that money, and they will give you the haul in return. What David Poile didn't trade and get in return when he could have with Ryan Ellis. What David Poile didn't trade and get in return, which he could have with Victor Arvidsson. This is the moment if you're going to do that. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joey from Bellevue. Poile is out of excuses. He needs to fire himself. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And it doesn't sound, from anybody that I've talked to on the inside, it doesn't sound like Herb Fritch, at least this past summer, it does not feel like he is of the mind to fire David Poile. Now, I do wonder. I mean, last night in my section, it was me and my buddy, and then there were two people on the aisle. And outside of that, there wasn't anybody else sitting there. I do wonder if that effect is going to be enough to push ownership to say, hey, we now need to do something about this. And I'm not telling you what to do with your money and what to do supporting your team. I mean, I still have my tickets. I went last night. I'm going Thursday night. I'm going Saturday night. I'm a little different. I'm a sports guy. But, I mean, at some point I do wonder. I know the fans are mad because I talk to you all, and I know I see the Adam Vingenpool at the end of last season, and I know nothing has happened between then and now that gives anybody any hope that anything's going to be different. And I do wonder if that sentiment will ultimately force Herb Fritch into the mindset that, no way, I got to do something about this. You know, these guys, when they bought this team, they didn't want to buy this team. You know, the group that owns it now, they didn't want to. But what had happened was, between Craig Leopold and Jim Balsillie and Boots Del Biagio, there was really nobody to own the team that could keep it here. So all these local guys that were Nashville first, they all got together. They didn't want to do it. They wanted to be fans that sat in the stands like me and you. They ended up pooling their money together. They bought this team to make sure it stayed here. And that was very successful. They didn't want to do it. But they had to do it for the city. Herb Fritch probably doesn't want to fire David Poile. I know he doesn't want to fire David Poile. But I think we're getting at the point to where I think he needs to do it for the city. I think he needs to do it so that we all do not become apathetic about where this team is headed. And another year of Poile and the excuses and the I promise we'll be better, that is going to be tough to swallow. Texter says, we can scream about the head coach all day, but until the architect of this disaster is not making decisions anymore, nothing will change. Poile is the problem. Get rid of him, and everything else falls into place. I can say this is what I truly believe about the Hines and Poile dichotomy. I think they are both responsible. I think Poile is infinitely more responsible than Hines, if for no other reason, though there are other reasons, because he hired Hines. But I do think another coach could coach this team better. I don't think this team is that bad. This team should make the playoffs. I don't think there's that much of a difference between this team and the Minnesota Wild. But the Minnesota Wild have Dean Evison as their coach, and he's a good coach. And the Predators have never won nothing. John Hines is their coach. And again, it's excuses. I bet you if they fired Hines and they called up Carl Taylor from Milwaukee to be the coach, just on the interim, that sugar high you get from changing the coach, and I think from undoing some of, Hines's issues, I think they would play better. Now, do I think they'd be able to beat, the Colorado Avalanche? No. But I do think that they would be a better team. All these teams that fired their coach last year, I was screaming last year. I'm like, Dallas is firing their coach. Why can't you fire your coach? Dallas is good this year. Winnipeg got a new coach. I'm like, they're good this year. Vegas fired their coach last year. They're good this year. Boston fired their coach. They're the best team in the league this year.
And they've all swapped coaches. It's strange.
Yeah. It is really odd, right?
Yeah, they're swapping coaches, teams. It's so weird.
Like Jim Montgomery got fired a couple years ago in Dallas. He's now in Boston. Bruce Cassidy got fired from Boston. He's now in Vegas. Rick Bowness got fired in Dallas. He's now in Vancouver.
Winnipeg.
Who's coaching Winnipeg now? Or who's coaching
Dallas now? It's DeBoer from Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah.
It's incestual. I mean, it's like, my God, give me one of those guys. Give me a guy who's got something on his resume that says this guy can win a game. Because Hines didn't have that. And they told us when they hired him, they said, oh, no, I know his resume is blank, but you'll see. We've seen. And I was anti-Hines. In fact, really where I started to realize that David was starting to lose the fastball, and I didn't know that the curveball and the changeup would soon to follow. But where I realized David was losing the fastball was when I was brushing my teeth. Ian, you remember this one?
Yes, I do.
I was brushing my teeth, and they acquired Ryan Hartman for a first-round pick. And I had found out that they had acquired Ryan Hartman earlier in the day, and then Twitter said that they had exchanged a first-round pick for him, and I had the toothbrush in my mouth, and I was like, first-round pick? Giving up a first-round pick for Ryan Hartman? And everyone's like, oh, no, I trust David over trusting you. And I was like, guys, Ryan Hartman sucks. You guys can trust David till the cow comes home, but, Ryan Hartman sucks. And slowly over time, David had so much credit when this team got to the Cup final and when they were a contender in 18 that it was like, if David says it, sir, yes, sir, we believe it. But he had a ton of credit. Unfortunately, he hasn't been paying his bills lately. And so now he keeps applying for new credit cards, and now the fans are like, no, we're not giving you another credit card. You have not paid your bills. This coach, you sold us on him as this guy was going to be the guy to turn the corner. Nope. You told us competitive rebuild. We'll be right back there. We'll compete for the cup. Nope. You can't draft. You can't sign. You can't trade. We're not giving you another credit card. And that is where I feel like the fans are at this point. Texter says, knowing Poyle, he won't do anything to help this team. Hopefully when Haslam comes in, he tells Poyle it's time for him to go.
There's just a lot of limited options they can do with the roster at this point, right?
I know, that's why I wanted to fire him in 21.
In the middle of the season,
But you still keep him from doing something. You know what I mean? So many, last year, the second round pick for Lozon.
You mean at this trade deadline upcoming?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go too crazy.
You would have said that last year.
Yeah, probably.
And then he traded a second round pick. You draft Roman Yossi in the second round. You draft Shea Weber with a second round pick. And he traded it for Jeremy Lozon, who freaking stinks, by the way. He can hit people. Other than that, he doesn't do anything. He stinks. And they traded a second round pick and then gave him a 4-year contract. Oh, my goodness gracious. And I told you all, after last week's debacle against Vegas, I wasn't going to hammer him for one game. But last night was more than one game. Last night was the affirmation of the season they promised to be better was not going to be better. The one that we were all very skeptical about, we were right to be skeptical.
Yeah, I don't like these. Feels like they have these kind of these trap games right now. And they're in a position where, in the standings in the season, where they shouldn't be there should be no trap games. Philly was not, they won, but they didn't look great, and Philly's not great. And then looking ahead to Boston coming to town on Thursday, and then you overlook Arizona, and you put up a stinker. So, I don't know.
So, I do believe that one of two things is going to happen Thursday night against Boston. Boston's best team in the league. I think they're going to win the Cup. And they're explosive. I think one of two things is going to happen. Either the Predators are going to get run out of the building 6-1. They're going to get freaking smoked.
And there's going to be a bunch of Boston fans there. And
it's going to be
And
bad.
I think it's the Boston sibling trip. So they will have a suite of family members along with a bunch of Boston fans. So it will get out of hand, and it will be loud Boston fans.
Oh, and so I think that is infinitely more I think that there's an 80% chance that happens. That the Predators get smoked 6-1 and that it's all Bruin fans. And, that it's miserable. The other part of it is that the Predators eke one out 2-1, And then it's, see, we're turning the corner, baby! And it's like, oh, great. They beat Boston, and now they'll lose their next 3. But they beat Boston.
There's just too much of that. Win
With
one,
them.
lose one. Win one, lose one.
615-737-1025. Let's go back to your phones. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
They can be a fully formed model of what they're going to be offensively moving forward.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
You don't know what's going to happen with the roster or the team.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
This is a good lesson about sports and what we think and what actually happens.
Chad Withrow on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormonal deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve your quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
If you missed the latest from Robbie and Rex Road.
First of all, that happens one time and you get a free touchdown in the red zone. That's situational football wins games and loses games. That's where the butt is. The bread is buttered. I said the butt is breaded. Same thing. 6 a.m. hour. Then it happens twice. That's getting schooled by Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. By the way. Quick aside on that, I noticed that Andy Reid mentioned Bieniemy a lot last night, and I don't know if you saw the Jay Glazer report about Andy Reid pondering retirement after this. But he had a report yesterday about him pondering retirement. And in my head, I'm like, is Eric Bieniemy about to just become the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs today? I'm just throwing it out there. It would be a pretty good time, pretty good way to go out for Andy Reid on top like that. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Either way, I bet he had a couple good cheeseburgers last night.
Yes.
You could tell.
I would think so.
Cheeseburger time for him.
After Terry Bradshaw. Make sure to mention that.
Yeah, just make sure you...
Come here, big guy. Come on over here.
Waddle on over here, Andy.
Let me
Be
get
nice.
a big squeeze of that belly. Come on.
But no, a great game last night. As far as my thoughts on the call, I've seen plays like that called holding before. I agree with you. I didn't love the call. You go back and watch it. Does he grab part of the jersey? Yeah. Does it really impede him? That's the question. Did he really get impeded by it? I don't know. I don't really think he did. The ball landed in the corner of the end zone, and Juju Smith-Schuster is at the beginning of the end zone when the ball hits the ground. Was he impeded that much? I don't think so. I don't think he was impeded that much.
Robbie and Rex Road, weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stop! Are you about to pay too much for new furniture? Then you need to come by Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in Nashville. Their President's Day sale is going on now. You can buy your new furniture today and get it today, but you do not have to pay today. During Social Furniture's President's Day sale, they have special financing for up to 60 months with no money down. Sectional sofas, mattresses, dining sets, bedroom sets, and more are up to 50% off. At Social Furniture, they say yes, yes, yes.
Start your day with a cup of Joe. He's gonna think that's stupid. Wait, what? Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. There, that sounds better.
Thank you so much.
Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I know every game is big, but when you go against a team lower than you in the standings, disappointing that you're kind of sort of...
Yeah, every game's important this time of year, regardless of who you play.
Every game is only important this time of year because you stink. If you are good, you know you're going to make the playoffs. Every game is not important. It's okay if the Dallas Stars drop a game. It's okay if you're one of those top teams in the East The team that you play on Thursday, Boston, it'll be okay if they lose. They'll be fine. But if you're not very good, then every single game matters. With that, to your phones. Let's go to Ryan, who's been waiting patiently here on the Predators in Mount Juliet. What's up, Ryan?
What's going on, Jared? As the trade deadline poses, you know Poyle's going to do nothing. He's going to sit on his hands like he always does.
I'm afraid he's going to do something stupid. Like, I'm afraid he's going to, trade for something like an Eric Goodbranson or a Jeremy Lozon.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, he's going to do something stupid and make the team worse than what it is. To be honest, I just can't wait till Haslam takes over. I hope Haslam comes in when he sits down for his one-year contract like he said he has every year, and Haslam looks in his eyes going, no, we're moving on without you, and take Hines with you. I've been on with Hines with you since day one, never liked him, didn't want him here, and his team has done nothing, and the season ticket holders are giving up. As you heard the game last night after the power play, they booed. When they were coming off the ice, they got booed. I hope it's a wake-up call for management to realize we are done with this team and this organization's coaching staff and management.
You know, I'm not going, thank you for your call. Like, the Detroit Lions had a walkout one time to protest Matt Millen when he was, I'm not into that. And I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling you that if you're a fan that you should give up your tickets, because the second that they get good again, you'll want to wish that you had your tickets. But I will say this, the fans should be frustrated. And they are. I'm frustrated. And you have every right to be. And your team owes it to you to show that they have a willingness to do what they don't want to do in order to get good again for you. And the Predators are not doing that right now. I do want to hit this text. Texter says, if the Predators beat Boston, it will be because Saros steals the game. No other reason. And that's the problem. Every time they beat a good team, it's because of the goalie. Let me say this about that. I thought John Hines starting Kevin Lankinen last night was low-key stupid. I texted, well, I'm going to tell you who I texted. But I texted somebody, and I said, what's he doing starting Lankinen tonight? And he goes, well, the Coyotes stink. And I thought, oh, my God. So Hines probably started Lankinen last night because Lankinen is going up against the worst team, the Coyotes, that they should beat. So, okay, we'll save Saros for Boston and Florida over the weekend. No! You start Saros against Arizona, so you make sure you don't lose the game that you should absolutely positively win. And then I would play Lankinen if you got to play him. I'd play him against Boston thinking, Attila the Hun could be the goaltender and it wouldn't matter against them. Like, that's how I would have done it. I'm like, what? Whoa, my God. And then what's the message to the team of like, oh, yeah, Arizona stinks, so we're starting Lankinen tonight. No. What was he thinking? Oh, man. Stillman and Company, great show today. We'll see you all tomorrow at 2 o'clock.